The cursed child may wish to change her fate. She deserves revenge. Those who forced the heroine to live in pain, and those who mocked her will be punished. The animal will help the woman, you just need to call it. The blonde enters the hall. She freezes because there are frozen figures of stones around her. She does not understand what happened. Everyone turned into statues, as if they had seen something so terrible that it was scary to imagine. Screams are heard, and the lady also hears someone's voice. It even seems familiar to her. The beauty jumps up, thinking about her father, mother, brother, and sister. In the main hall, there is a girl with guards. They all point their weapons at the brunette. She will get what she deserves. Vivian can't calm down her interlocutor. She is the one who created everything that is happening. She is guilty. Fleta must answer. She will see the power of the wind, which only people with pure blood are endowed with. A lizard runs forward. Now they will see if the girl can ignore orders to surrender. The main character runs forward. She puts out magic to protect the baby and asks to stop. Shazan doesn't hesitate. She summons the dragon, the golden light spreading throughout the room, allowing everyone to see. The lizard is immediately thrown back. The sister again asks not to interfere so that in order to stop everything, the creature must be killed. A tragedy happened. People in the palace were cursed. If the girl had been taken care of when Vivian ordered, everything would have been better. It would be better to calm down. The confusion is absolutely understandable, but in such a situation, it is worth remaining reasonable. The priority is to find survivors, but the lady does not agree. All the people in the palace are already dead. The green-eyed one shouldn't be surprised. She's seen many statues on her way. She should understand. Everyone who tried to do anything turned to stone, even the lion that his father summoned. It is unclear how Cézanne managed to survive, but everyone in the palace without exception was killed. The sinister brunette is fine. Vivian has no idea what happened, but she is sure that she is somehow involved in it. It's all just speculation. The woman thinks it's okay to point a gun at a child who can't even stand. Right now, the older one seems more dangerous. It's hard to believe that the blonde is going over to the side of the lower creature. Now the acquaintance is breaking down. Cézanne has always been exactly like this, simply because she can summon an insignificant dragon. The girl always just pretended to be a person who didn't care, no matter what this creature was the cause of the disaster. The heroine is partly telling the truth. A muffled voice is heard from somewhere to the side. It is a dragon. The immense darkness is already very close. It is strong enough that we will have to fight to somehow resist it. The knights stood silently, but then the princess ordered them to hurry and kill Fleta. The dragon asks if he should place it, but the most important thing is, of course, not to harm the subjects. Elan will buy some time, and he and Fleta will get out. In the meantime, the lady will help even if she can't walk. The brunette doesn't raise her head hoarsely, asking why they are trying to help her now. The lady's eyes glow a strange red color. She says that unfortunately everything will be over. Around the lightning of dangerous power, the knights gradually turn into stones. Cézanne manages to run away. Everyone turned into statues and a strong wave appeared from the castle, causing the blonde to even fall to the ground. Elan is alive, but half of his wings have turned into stone, which is impossible to penetrate. Once upon a time, Cézanne read in a book that when the King of Darkness and the snake basilisk awakens the world as we know it, will meet its end. Fools in front of the monster's eyes will all turn to stone. This cannot be avoided. The heroine understands that all this is incredible. Right in front of her is that very creature. This is not just a fiction. The dragon will not be able to distract the enemy for long. When the chance appears, the lady must run as far as possible. Elan can't do this, but instead of listening, he rushes into battle to protect his mistress. Fleta is descending. She has dark magic, so everything is useless. The light that surrounded the castle has long since fallen. Now the woman is not even sure that it is her friend standing in front of her. She would never do something like that. There is not a single person in the palace that the brunette does not know, who does not insult the little girl or curse her for her dark eyes. There was no one who was on the side of the beauty in this place. Everyone just watched but did nothing. Every day was like hell. At such moments, Basilisk whispered in his ear, asking to be summoned to Earth so that he could take revenge on everyone. Cézanne still doesn't believe that all this is possible. The brunette wished that at least the princess could escape. Among all those degenerates, only the blonde was the one who treated me truly kindly. Perhaps for the beauty, it was just a small favor that she would not even remember, but for Fleta, it was salvation. No one had ever done anything good for a child. She couldn't believe that this was reality, as it was. Alana is almost defeated. The woman asks to stop the basilisk before it is too late. The words serve as a blow to the heart. This creature is no longer under the girl's control. Nothing can be changed. The dragon looks at the lady for the last time and asks to run away. He is turned into a large stone. The blonde's magic is blocked. The dragon is broken. There is nothing left to counter. That's true. Everything is as people predicted. Fleta is the cursed princess who cursed the royal family and brought about the disaster. The heroine's face is the same. She still looks with the same eyes. All the emotions are hidden there. The woman must see the situation happening around her because the summoned basilisk took everything. The brunette screams. She orders to blame her. She gets angry as others did. She hears only a quiet, "Sorry." The imperial family hated the child, but Cézanne could not turn away from them. After all, she had no excuse. It's better to keep quiet. It will be pointless to say all this now that it's all over. In any case, the beauty didn't even look at the baby, and now she thinks she has the right to say such things. Even shamelessness has its limits. If the princess had not been such a coward and had come closer, perhaps everything would have been a little different. The monster is about to turn the girl to stone, but Fleta stops him and flies closer. Even if something had changed, it would still remain a mystery to the lady what might have happened. In fact, the princess is sorry if somehow they meet in another life. She wants to be looked at properly, not avoided. The woman will definitely come closer and will definitely change fate if they do see each other. The eyes open, although the eyelids are still heavy. Mal is standing next to the bed. She calls the princess, saying that it is time to get up. The royal physician said that the girl's condition had improved, but the maid was not sure. The heart beats too hard. The blonde doesn't remember wearing such a childish dress. Looking at the mirror, Erantos cannot understand why she is so young. In the clothes that were thrown away after growing up, the girl looks more mature. Moreover, her face is different. I remember clearly that death occurred, but then it is not clear how I managed to become younger. Mel says that the lady is as strange as ever, and she in a hurry asks what year it is according to the calendar. It's the year 970. It seems it's not 976 as it was before time has turned back. It seems that the beauty had a very strange dream. There is no need to remain in this form. There is no point in it. Today is the royal breakfast sitting while her hair is being done. The lady is still amazed that everyone turned out to be alive. Warm touches revive nothing happened, and it makes you rejoice. From the heart the lady enters the room. If everything is, so the family is also alive. The parents smile, saying that they have been waiting for their girl for a long time. The daughter was sick for some time. She must have missed her mother's hugs. That's why she runs to hug her. In fact, the beauty really wanted to see them. She wants them to live happily ever after. Cézanne doesn't usually act like this. Something is definitely wrong. If the girl says so, everything will be fine with them. If something happened to the lady, it would be better to tell her. Her parents will not judge her in any case. The father will find and eliminate the reason why his daughter is in no mood at all. He is ready for anything. The older brother comes up from behind and, smiling, asks how his sister is doing. The youngest one changed and suddenly began to speak too kindly to her parents. For Luca, the girl will always be small no matter how much she protests. Vivian runs up from behind and hugs him from behind, laughing easily, just like her brother. The woman says that she was very worried, so she should never get sick again. It is forbidden. The blonde still feels too awkward. She thanks him for his concern and calmly moves away. Cézanne can't believe it's real. She remembers the pain of the encounter with the basilisk. It was definitely not a dream. Now it has been postponed for 6 years. We need to think about what to do next before the time comes. The child's wish seems to have come true. Turning to Mel, the lady asks where Fleta is. The third princess is far away, but the maid is urgently asked to tell all the details in order to come to the rescue in time. Night fell. The two threw on their cloaks and went forward to find a place. The baby lives in the maid's room, as everyone probably knows. Someone came out of the room doing it as quietly as possible. It turned out to be Miss Mila. She is the nanny responsible for the child. That person is quite a peculiar individual, and her reputation is not particularly good either. Mel will have to wait until the beauty comes out and checks everything she has to do it. The brunette is not sure whether to stop the princess, so she asks to return in time. Almost immediately, a strong stench hits your nose. It is so dark inside that you can't see anything, and you might even trip. The woman turns on the light with her powers and freezes in horror. In front of her on a chair sits a baby who is tied up. The hand reaches out to the cheek, which is completely icy. It becomes scary, and it is no longer clear what is happening. Pressing her ear to her heart, the lady understands that everything is still okay. Fleta is still alive. There is a chance. The child did nothing wrong, but she was still made to feel humiliated. She urgently needs to be shown to a doctor. Cézanne knew absolutely nothing from the past. She could not even imagine that everything was so terrible. It is unclear how they treated the child, what made her summon a monster to take revenge on people. The princess is sorry that she ignored the brunette. She hopes that this time at least a drop of warmth will overtake her. The doctor said that the girl was severely malnourished, combined with the cold and dehydration. This played a role. If she had not been discovered, she would have died. The man promises that he will prescribe all the necessary medications. If the wounds are treated consistently, this will end. The doctor receives praise and then promises that he will come again to check on the patient, but for now he leaves. Miss Mila came running shouting that Fleta had been saved and feigning surprise at what had happened in the meantime. The woman claims that she knew absolutely nothing about what was happening and was removed. The child was always well fed and never showed any discomfort. The maid again assures that she did not know. If that's the case, someone put her in chains, in which case the leader is neglecting his duties. Realizing that she can't get out of it, the lady still admits, but says that the little girl was uncontrollable, so she had to teach her a lesson. Forcing Fleta to starve and then treating her with cruelty is the height of horror. No one deserves such horror. In fact, the brunette is picky about food, and she also didn't like washing herself or working on her development. Enough lies already. Ordering to raise his head, the blonde sharply gives a slap in the face, which is deserved. The woman is fired. The guards will seize her and lock her up without food or water as punishment. Not listening to the screams, the heroine sits down on the bed next to her little sister. She is still very small. Fleta should be that very darkness that everyone fears. But now it is clear that this is an ordinary child. The baby needs care now. It is more important to her than anything else, and it is appreciated. Mel runs into the room with the other servants, saying that at such a late hour a lady has no right to run away. Seeing the baby in such a state, the princess brought her for treatment. The maid stutters, saying that if His Majesty finds out, there will be problems. The rest will look after the new man. It will be better if the princess returns as soon as possible. Tossing and turning in bed, the heroine realizes that her head is on something soft. It seems she has ended up in heaven. Jumping up in bed, you can see a tray of food. It all seems even more unreal. Every second is like confirmation. A voice from the side attracts attention. This is not heaven, and death has not yet come. Reality remains as it is. The princess asks not to be surprised, especially by her presence. She will have to eat to gain strength. The food looks wonderful, and on top of all that, it awakens a hidden appetite. The child seems hungry, but does not dare to do anything. She asks again if she is allowed to eat. Looking at what lies ahead, the heroine asks again with interest for the last time. If there is no need to eat, then the tray will be taken back to the kitchen, and an active protest is immediately heard. From the very first bite, the receptors were delighted. It is hard to believe that the food has always been so wonderful. It is significantly different from rotten bread and old stew. The blonde becomes sad. It is obvious that the child was forced to go hungry for a long time, since she is delighted with simple food. While Cézanne promises herself to feed her charge properly, she is afraid that she has done something wrong. Immediately you hear apologies. The heroine was wrong, although she herself does not know what she did wrong. The princess orders more desserts to be brought. She is not angry at all. Her expression did not change because of this. The first thing they did was send Fleta to bathe. The maids were whispering the water was black, and they had never washed anyone so dirty. Behind the door stood Mel and the lady who heard the insults of the scars on the back. They suddenly enter. The maids, of course, apologized, but no one took action. They had never seen anything so dirty before, and it was almost impossible to clean something like that. It is indecent to say such things in front of Her Majesty, but the blonde herself does not care. She orders everyone to move away. It's time for everyone to go their separate ways. Arantos herself will take care of the beauty and help her wash herself. After the friend has dealt with those who behaved so terribly, she had better come back. It might be important. Hands touch the back. There really is a whole bunch of wounds on it, some of which are still very fresh. Whip marks and nail scratches are the most common. It must be very painful. The child is almost crying. She does not understand why they are touching her so tenderly, perhaps for the first time in her life, trying not to harm her. Warmth spreads throughout the body. Noticing tears, the future queen asks if the water hurts a lot. The brunette assures that everything is fine, but cannot explain why that same liquid is pouring out of her eyes. Promises to stop sound upsetting, so Suzanne says that it's okay, crying is normal. Everyone reacts differently. A second later, the dam burst. Fleta can't stop. Sobs can be heard throughout the room. The baby was taken into the room and dressed. The clothes smelled nice, which seemed unusual compared to the past. The robe is still a bit big, even if it is meant for young maids. Dinner and bath over, it was time to leave the room where exactly no one had yet specified. The magic is over. It's sad but expected. Fleta thanks for everything she liked. The best day has passed. The words sound wrong. Suzanne just wants to take the baby with her because she doesn't have her own room. Until the room for the new guest is ready, the brunette has every right to remain next to the princess. The beauty likes everything. Her mouth opens in surprise when they enter a room with beautiful ceilings. As soon as the door closed, there was a jump onto the bed. It was soft as a feather. The main character sitting in another room hears sounds, and it seems that the child really liked the new place. The princess seems to be a good person. She gave us delicious food and even gave us a room as well as washing and giving us clothes. In addition to all her advantages, she is also beautiful with sparkling golden hair and eyes that are distinctive. The woman can still smell that same scent on her clothes. She hopes to make friends. Memories come to mind where Miss Mila screamed almost daily that Fleta was useless and no one needed her. Alas, there is no point in thinking about a future as a noble princess. She will never become like the emperor's family. The baby's existence is a sin she doesn't understand if she has the right to be where she is now. We need to think it all over carefully to understand how Fleta summoned Basilisk, although it is already clear for what purposes. Until now, it seemed like the attempts were just stupid rumors. If she was born with the power of darkness, they were all in danger. The maid distracted the mistress from her thoughts to report that no information could be found. This is all too strange because the heroine clearly remembers seeing some important passage in one of the books. If the king of snakes and darkness awakens, the world will know defeat and meet its end. It seems that the book is not from the palace, but then it came from some other place that is definitely interesting. There was not a single line about Basilisk in any publication. Someone is trying to hide the truth behind wide doors, but this will only make the situation worse. Now Arantos feels like she's too worried about what comes next. She has too many questions. Now, Fleta is different from the previous version of herself. She is unlikely to be able to summon the monster. You want to believe that everything will be fine, but at night the woman dreams of the complete collapse of the empire, which they cannot avoid. Luckily, it was possible to travel in time, but it is not clear whether this was something prophetic or just like that. You can't get worked up, but it's clear that if Fleta calls on Basilisk, then they will all face death without the right to defend themselves. The lady's clothes are soaked with sweat. Mel assumes that she will not greet him again. There is no need to cancel the lesson. All this is because the lady is too worried, which of course is inevitable. The best solution would be to exercise and try to get rid of completely unnecessary information from your head. There was a knock at the door. Fleta was sitting thinking about how hungry she was when the servant asked if the inhabitant was awake. Jumping up, the little girl opens the door and Mel is standing there with a tray in his hands and smiling. The woman trains destroying each goal, as she expected. The training helped to put her thoughts in order. My head is filled with thoughts about the child. As soon as the time is up, perhaps it's worth visiting her. The second princess is on her way. That's the good news that's coming out. The brunette says what the heroine conveyed. She really wants to meet her new ward. Preparing for the visit will not take much time, but will allow you to look good in the eyes of the future ruler. The door opens, and everyone greets the second heir to the throne. As the beauty thought Fleta had already woken up, today the blonde looked too strange, like a goddess of war. The baby was given only a little warmth, but she is already glowing. She was waiting for only this, and it drives me crazy. This cute child will summon a basilisk. It's bad, but we need to think about how to prevent the horror. Her eyes are also sparkling. The brunette doesn't know if she can tell the princess how cool she looks. The baby drooped, and inside her head she could still hear the phrase about uselessness. If the heroine gets close to the person who helped her, she will only be a parasite. You cannot make any sudden movements, even if you want to be close. Nothing special happened. I put on a fake smile. The heroine assures me that she is simply happy to see the man she loves. Smiling, the woman receives compliments. Fleta has never seen such a beautiful person. It is immediately clear that among all people, she is the most respectful person. You don't even have to think twice about it. It's hard to listen to something like this remembering how the heroine was accused of being indifferent. She's not as good as she seems. Realizing that she had said too much, the beauty quickly lowered her head. Causing damage with her words was the last thing her soul wanted. Apologizing when nothing terrible has been done is the strangest thing in the world. Now that the woman is convinced that her ward is okay, she can leave. If she stays, she might scare someone again. Only a few days have passed, each of which was extremely tiring. The child follows his savior around. Despite her behavior, it doesn't seem like the brunette is comfortable around her friend. Every time she noticed someone looking at her, the little girl looked with those same puppy eyes. It wasn't necessary, but every time it went straight to the soul. The blonde doesn't know what she can do. This is the first time she looks after such a baby. It is not clear what to do. If you are careless and frivolous, you can hurt a woman even more, then it will definitely not be possible to improve. The girl is honestly scared, but at the same time, she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. While you enjoy your childhood, you need to take absolutely everything. Unlike her past self, the future queen wants to help live a good life, which is all terribly difficult. There is something to be afraid of. The child can summon the basilisk, and at the moment it occupies all consciousness. Despite Arantos's age, it is hard to believe that she is also of royal blood precisely because of the wounds all over her body. It seemed the baby was too tired. They went to bed almost immediately so that nothing would happen. The feelings are too strange. The girl cannot understand how long ago she slept with someone else, and Fleta also cannot believe that she is in bed with Cézanne. The brunette always had a feeling the body was alone in pitch darkness, but now it is not like that at all. Now the baby is no longer alone. She has nothing to be afraid of, because nothing terrible will happen. All life will be filled with light. The darkness of Basilisk will never awaken, because Fleta will be saved. Running out into the street in the morning, the heroine cannot believe that everything around her is so beautiful. The blonde asks to go on a picnic with her. If you look around, you can play games and then relax. The princess is still very small. She wants to play and run. Mel will go with her, and then the lady will arrive. The training will take time, but Cézanne will arrive soon. The beauty wants to reciprocate her feelings. Four-leaf clover brings good luck. This is known to everyone around, so it will serve as a gift for a loved one. The brunette wanders through the forest, examining all the areas under the trees in the hope of finding what she needs. Finally, I managed to get to the clover field. The field is simply strewn with different species, so it was just luck. The little girl counts each one, still trying, when a stranger in a cloak approaches her. This man had never been seen before, but he certainly looked elegant, like some kind of aristocrat. The little princess seems to have been frightened, but it is not critical because the hero has found the necessary clover. The palm holds it out. It seems that the beauty needs something like this much more. There is no dispute about that, but in any case, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Dropping to one knee, the man introduces himself as Grand Duke Srakan of the Duchy of Kilian von Darien. If the brunette is not a princess, she should be addressed differently, but she waves her hands, protesting even against the lady. The heroine doesn't know how to behave. She's clearly confused, but Cézanne appeared in time. You can run to her to hug her. The first thing you have to do is ask a question about what the child is doing in such a place. Your gaze is directed at the Duke. They have met somewhere before. Bowing, the hero also introduces himself to the one who calls herself Cézanne de Hermel Erantos. It looks like they got lost, but it's not that simple. The brunette finally found what she needed and says that she would like to give a clover. To tell the truth, the Grand Duke found the plant first. He came across it by accident and could not help but help the young lady. In any case, you have to say thank you, even if it doesn't seem like the best option. Srakan has already received gratitude, so he doesn't dare ask for more. Since Darien gave the plant to the young lady, it would be better if she kept it for herself, just as a keepsake. The blonde herself doesn't need anything like that because Fleta is her luck. That's the most important thing. Watching the hugs and feeling out of place, the Duke says it's time to return to his adjutant. He hopes to see him soon. Already somewhere far away, the hero still turns around once more, many feelings raging inside him. The wonderful thing is that the little girl is close to the princess, like her little sister. Perhaps she is the daughter of some aristocrats. The second princess is also special. Darian can't listen to her thoughts. There has never been a single woman who was so hidden. Sitting near the water, the two chat, and during the conversation it turns out that the little girl was mistaken for royalty. The royal family tends to have light hair and eyes, so it's hard to confuse the descendant. Something is definitely wrong. In order not to burden Fleta with worries, the beauty smiles. It seems that she is simply so wonderful. Although the heroine cannot be considered a princess now, it will not be for long. We just have to wait a little longer. If the lady could, she would want to be recognized. That would be the right thing to do after what she has been through. The brunette knows the face of His Highness. Madame showed it in a book for great people, and she also managed to find Cézanne there. Having seen the savior in real life, the heroine realized that she was much more beautiful than in the book, or rather more special. Tomorrow, the blonde will need to have a new portrait taken, which is good, but it also means that the baby will be all alone. It won't take much time, and even if it does, it still won't be something to take into account. Making a sweet expression, the little girl asks that no matter what, the girl try to return as soon as possible. The question is a bit of a sensitive one, but the princess wants to know how her sister will feel if she meets her father. In fact, it's all complicated. The little girl doesn't even know what answer to give. She hesitated almost immediately. His Majesty never sought meetings with his daughter. It seemed to him that he didn't care at all. The thought that the young man would ever come to visit the little girl never even crossed her mind. The girl is perhaps a little curious. She wants to understand whether the man is like Cézanne and whether he is really as strange as they say about him. The King of the West, as well as Prince Florent, will not be able to arrive. The assistant hastily collects the scattered documents. The king is very angry and shouts, believing that the proposal makes almost no sense. The wedding with Weston will not end well. The hero does not need anything. He simply does not want to lose his daughter. The servant noticed that the master only reacted so sharply when it came to the princess. Usually he was more balanced. Someone knocks on the door to announce that Arantos has visited the palace to pose for a portrait. After writing, the girl asked to meet with her father for some reason. She decided that this would be something important. If this was true, the blonde had to go right now. A smile blossomed on his face in just an instant. Turning to Cervantes, the king lowers his voice again, ordering him to leave and stay out of the way. The princess can't help but move. The room is too hot. Pierre must draw a little faster. The door opens, and a young man appears in the room who immediately hurries to his daughter to greet her. The heroine becomes more and more beautiful. Distracted from the portrait and her task, the lady again reminds about her important conversation. Having given the girl a little time, the young man will receive gratitude, so sitting down, he becomes interested. First, you should listen to what the girl says without interrupting and paying attention to her every word. This is the most important thing. Recently, the green-eyed one took one child under her wing. The beginning already sounds promising, and the emperor's mood changes. The child didn't even have a proper room. She lived in a storage room in the palace for maids. The brunette was tortured to such an extent that she could no longer sit and watch, so she took it upon herself to get on the right path. The words are obvious, and moreover they are true. The girl did something wrong. She needed to think twice. Father knew about Fleta the princess, could not think that Arantos was unaware of what was happening in his own palace. The hero has a hot temper by nature. It seemed that he would get angry, but for now everything is calm, as if nothing is happening. Deciding to go all the way, the girl asks if the man has ever met the baby, and the answer is disappointing. Cézanne almost begs to see her at least once because Fleta is not cursed, as rumors say. The brunette is also a child of the blood of Arantos. She is polite and kind, moreover charming than anyone else. Only once the hero will go to the meeting, it is hard to believe that this is true, but this is only because of the request of the daughter. The blonde always keeps his word. He would never lie without holding back. Cézanne climbs in for a hug. It seems that the girl has become very attached to Fleta. She is happy only from simple actions. This does not make any sense. The damned man has no right to get closer to the princess anymore. We will have to take measures. Before going to her chambers, Cézanne is going to go to the library to get a book of fairy tales. It would have been possible to ask Aisha, but looking for easy ways is not always the right thing to do. The girl headed out into the corridor, coming across her 1,500 porters lined up in rows on the walls. For the sake of my friend, I will have to endure the corridor of fame. There is no choice. The baby will be happy to see the publication. It is worth it. While pondering what action to take regarding the paintings, the maiden freezes when she sees Darien. It is not clear what the brunette forgot there, and why he is looking at the different paintings so attentively. There is a revolution in my head. It will be difficult to figure out what to do, but I don't want to cross paths. The girl wants to just cover her face and run past. That would be the best solution, but then she is noticed. Instead of passing by as his acquaintance had wished, Killian politely bows his head and greets the royal personage. They met again. This happens quite often lately. He is interested in the nature of Erantos, so after the conference, he wanted to go for a walk. The place where the acquaintances are now standing is considered very interesting. This time, it is all true. I wouldn't want to get it wrong, but that's exactly what's happening. Sraken explains that he's pleased to see how the king cares for his daughter. There are many other attractive places in the palace. It is better to take a look around there. The young man was rude, but he still laughed, pretending not to notice, and it was all because of the expression on the young lady's face. The hero thought about something that he couldn't say, but he could also brush it aside. It wasn't all that important anymore. Her Highness does not deserve to be insulted or humiliated. No attempt was made to tarnish her. The blonde is in a hurry to escape. After all, she is a little busy. She is going to move on. The right place is a library. Perhaps it is a stupid coincidence, but the hero has a strong interest in books. No matter how much the lady wants to run away, nothing will come of it. They go together, and the hero asks about each building. Darien looks happy. Every bit of the royal grounds is wonderful, no doubt about it. The emperor is hunting in that place, although it doesn't happen that often. The lady pretends to leave but thinks about the duke's intentions. Unfortunately, she is unable to understand them. She is interested, so the dialogue will continue. Another question again drives him crazy. Darien doesn't understand that he is in the distance with a beautiful arch. Of course, we are talking about the moon garden. The girl just wanted to take the book for Fleta, and now she is going through hell. The brunette behind mumbles something just to attract attention a little. He noticed that he was causing some inconvenience. This is completely wrong. You can think of it that way, but it seems that he should have noticed it earlier. The main character is slightly upset, all because of the corridor of fame, and because Sraken was looking at her childhood portrait. The emotions are immediately visible. They cannot be covered up by a smile or something like that. The expression on her face is so sweet that there is no strength to hold back a smile. It bursts out on its own. The blonde is much more sincere than she was before in the forest, which is why the duke likes her even more. That's why the lady resembles a small kitten. They usually get angry and fluffy, but in the end they look more cute than angry. Finally, it was all over. They came to the main entrance of the library where they were heading initially. Pointing to the door, Cézanne promises that the man will have a good time in this place, after which, of course, a polite farewell follows. Despite the mask worn on his face, one can see that Sraken is despised. Literally half an hour later, a new clash occurred. The young man took the publication from the shelf and was about to start reading, but then the princess slipped under his arm. She needed exactly this and nothing else. Ice Devil is quite an enticing title. Darien likes this issue because it reminds him of the past and warm memories. But since it is necessary to change, nothing can be done. He will have to leave it to the future empress. Hearing the phrase about how the publication was to the Grand Duke's liking, the girl smiles and then cannot hold back a slight chuckle. She would not have dared to laugh, but at that moment the brunette caught her on exactly what happened. The young man smiles back, saying that he knows about the well-known fact that the heroine is one of the most kind-hearted people. He just decided to play a joke, and the little girl then misunderstood everything, thinking about something a little different. Making a skeptical expression, the girl clicks her tongue in displeasure, the sound literally hitting the eardrums. The appearance is absolutely not suitable for the Duke's character. He is too petty and timid. Surely the interlocutor has never had to experience the shame of someone making fun of a portrait that was hung for all to see, considering it cute or something like that. Realizing that things are getting hot, the hero immediately changes his strategy and bows down, asking for forgiveness, saying that this is not serious. Cézanne brushes it off. She did not even think of accusing her friend, but she really was ashamed. A smile flashes across her face again, as Darien thanks her for the mercy. Erantos did the right thing. Even if she doesn't think so, she can keep the book. The words she said earlier weren't just empty words. The lady is silent for just a second and then hands the volume into the hands of the interlocutor. He has the right to read it, but to return it in a couple of days. This is a mandatory condition that must be fulfilled. It will not be possible to meet in person, so it will need to be passed through the maid of honor. Her Highness has made her point very clear, so there is no doubt that everything will be fine. After such a conversation, both wish each other the best day before going their separate ways. The girl would definitely have refused the service if the acquaintance himself had offered the same thing. She probably considered the Duke rather clumsy, but in any case they had fun being together at least for a moment. In his head he still thinks about that corridor. It was different, and the Duke liked how many paintings there were from which warmth fell on the soul covering the heart. And not only, the Kilias read The Snow Devil. This is not the first time. A long time ago in the mountains lived a devil with an icy heart. On the top of the mountain stood his snow castle, and it was so cold there that no one dared to go. Let the man's heart be frozen once it was full of hot blood in life. He made a deal with evil itself. He wanted to gain great power and to be able to live with his beloved, beautiful princess. Hearing the words, the devil laughed, and as if in jest, cast a great curse that would be difficult to remove. The hot heart was covered with a thick crust of ice. It was impossible to break through. Hundreds of years passed, and one day the young girl got lost because she lost her way. Wandering through the woods, the heroine met. The devil hugged him with her arms and tried to warm him up because she saw the color of his skin. And not only that, of course, he didn't feel anything in his state. It was unrealistic. The lady did not give up and continued trying to help him. One day, she suffered from the magic of the king, who did it unintentionally. Her body was completely dehydrated and did not move. The devil suffered seeing how another person suffers. He realized that the blonde was dear to him, and hot tears melted the ice. The hero realized that he loved the girl, so he asked to be allowed to give his heart as a gift along with the voice of the devil. The beating of the heart was heard, which was accelerated to the maximum. He became an ordinary person. It finally happened. As a result, the couple lived a long and happy life. It was filled with light and joy. Thanks to the beauty, the ice melted. The boy sitting next to the woman opens his mouth in surprise. He is clearly fascinated by what was just read to him from the book. The brunette lowers his head. He asks if even he can be corrected, and if he can trust girls after what happened earlier. The kid is scared because from such people you always hear only ordinary lies. The only special exception was his sister. She was always honest. Someday, Kilia will meet the same person who will be important to him, and who will make him feel calm, as if the world is filled only for the two of them. His beloved will never betray him. She will be there. There are still doubts in his head because the child is afraid of what will happen if failure awaits him again. It is better not to listen to strangers. He has already decided long ago what exactly he should do anyway. He will not find out anything if they lie to him. This is obvious. Fleta lowers her head. She feels very sorry for the king who was frozen. He must have been very lonely because only after 100 years something good happened, and fate visited him in the form of that beauty. Until that moment, he was alone. Shazan was about to answer something, but nothing came out because the maid called her. Mel announced that a courtier from the imperial chambers had arrived on some important errand and was standing outside the door. The second princess understands that she does not have time to figure out what and how, so she simply asks to call him in. It will be much easier. The entrance doors swing open and several servants bow their heads greeting the future ruler. His Majesty invites Fleta to attend afternoon tea. He did it so directly that even Arantos Jr. herself realized that something was wrong. Noticing the little girl's emotions, the maiden calmly decides to answer. The brunette is too young. She might be a little uncomfortable. The green-eyed one volunteers to go together. It will be better for them. This way the emperor will not be against the company of his beloved daughter in an hour. A carriage will be sent for them. Time gives the opportunity to prepare a little before everything begins. In just a few minutes, the duo are standing in front of the mirror. They are trying on a beautiful dress on Fleta that suits her fair skin. Her sister asks if she is afraid of the meeting, but she does not know at all. Perhaps it is a slight nervousness that is present in any person before exciting moments. Surely the child is very worried this can be noticed, but it should have happened sometime. In any case, it is clear what is what, and there is no choice to see. His Majesty is something obligatory, a criterion to understand how it all depends. Having already fully gathered herself, the little girl looks over her outfit one last time, and then turns to Cézanne. She wants to know why Erantos called her to talk when he hadn't paid any attention to her before. The blonde is interested in what Fleta is like, so it is quite logical that he wanted to get to know her better and talk at least once. Sadly lowering her eyes, the girl does not understand whether she should show him her joy or something else. Going against your will is not the best thing, so you need to act only as your heart tells you. In this regard, the heart will not be sad. Cézanne goes down with a bright smile. She will always be there to support the child, so the meeting will go well. Gently adjusting her hair and making the girl relax, the heroine hears her asking permission to go to the princess's banquet right after everything is over, where she will be happier. Of course, there will be no need to forbid because the best option is an agreement. Now, this is the most important thing. The father will surely understand how dear the child is to the girl, and thus the relationship will improve a little. He always did things for the good of the girl. All together, they went forward along the corridor. They move deeper, realizing that they have almost reached it. The closer they are, the more worries in their hearts. On the steps they are met by His Majesty's assistant. He bows his head in greeting. The Emperor has been announced, and so he comes down from his office. There are many servants around this time. There is no hint of a smile on his face, as usual. He moves forward and measures the child with a look that makes one start. Erantos sees the girl bowing down. Realizing that the time has come to try to smooth out the general atmosphere, the beauty says out loud that Fleta has wonderful manners, which are noticeable even in her movements. Putting her hand on her shoulder, the maiden sincerely praises her for all her efforts. The father calmly says that he needs to talk to the brunette, and it is advisable to do it one-on-one so that no problems arise. Cézanne immediately reminds him of her request. The child is worried, so there is no need to pressure her so that the conversation goes without problems. The man doesn't look like he's in a good mood and like he won't ruin the relationship. He has a clear plan that's already been drawn up in his head. Already getting ready to leave the room, the girl turns around to wish Fleta good luck with one glance and hear gratitude in response. Of course, one can only hope, but unfortunately dreams will be in vain. His Majesty said that he would keep his promise, and he should believe at least this: once there is a real storm inside the beauty. It is even hard for her to breathe, but it is almost impossible to cope from fear. She almost drops her fork, and the servant helpfully offers a new one for dessert, which is still on the table. Huddling into a ball, the heroine assures herself that everything is fine. She just asks herself to calm down. This is the most important thing now, because if she shows herself from a good side, perhaps others will consider her worthy, and not the way she was before. Getting up from his seat, the young man literally hangs like a shadow over his frightened interlocutor. They shouldn't pretend, because just today he said that everything was fine only for the sake of Cézanne. Despite what was said earlier, Erantos never considered Fleta his child for him. She is a real monster. After the words spoken, which were like knives piercing the heart of a small child, the man turned around to leave. He asks never to be seen again because next time there may be many consequences that will not end well. In her heart, the heroine asks Cézanne for forgiveness. She understands that she had hoped for her, but in the end, the expectations were not justified, because the little girl herself ruined what they had managed to build. She is in too much pain to think and restrain herself. Tears flow from her eyes like a stream. It looks more like rain. Entering the blonde's room, the girl immediately lights up with joy, even if she understands that something went wrong. She calmly asks how the conversation with Fleta went, but her father frowns. He said everything he wanted to say initially. He has no more regrets. She heard what she deserved. In any case, what's done is done. There's no point in being angry. But Cézanne doesn't understand this. The screams are too loud. They resonate throughout the entire room. Erantos promised something and ultimately didn't fulfill his plan, breaking the heart into two parts and making the baby suffer. In some ways, the youngest is right, but she should also have listened when she was asked to do something. The girl was strongly advised not to see the heroine anymore, but she thought that it would be easier for her to follow her convictions. Cézanne should not approach her ward saying words that sound more like an order. The young man hopes that they will listen to him this time, but nothing happens. The face changes, something new is expressed in it, an unknown emotion. In fact, the beauty is very disappointed in her father because she did not think that he would ever be so cruel. Not wanting to listen to anything else, Arantos quickly goes into the garden where the tea party was taking place. There is food and tea on the table. None of the favorite desserts have been touched. This is the worst thing. But now we have to figure out where she went. It is scary to think that the child got into some kind of trouble. The maiden runs up to Mel, who has also just arrived at the scene, and has absolutely no idea what is going on. Fleta said she was going for a walk and headed into the garden the moment His Majesty left the meeting place. The lady runs forward, not paying attention to the road at all, and not thinking about what will happen next. Her thoughts are filled only with the little child. She did not know that the father so strongly wanted to renounce the third princess. Confirmation of status was not important because the most important thing is that the person treats the baby a little more gently. The king obviously hates the brunette with all his heart and shows it quite openly, not even caring about the feelings of all other people. If everything is really so, then it is unclear why the baby was left at the palace. She deserved better, and not what she had to go through. The girl sits alone under a tree and tries her best not to start crying. She is actually extremely offended when the words spoken by her father play in her head. The king's shiny golden hair and bright green eyes are exactly the same as those of the princess who helps. The baby is too different from her family. Both her hair and eyes are dark. This is one of the main points of conflict which is impossible to cope with now. The question in my head is Fleta really my biological daughter? Or was something hidden? The cold gaze piercing the whole body and not expressing a drop of interest made me feel more than strange at the moment of meeting it. Became clear why it was Arantos who never sought a meeting, constantly postponing. It seems that initially everything was conceived differently all this time. The hero wanted the worst and even better this way. He wanted death in his case. This is the best option because then he will not have to see the degenerate that he had to give birth to. There is a rustling sound, and then footsteps that gradually approach. The blonde sits down to hug the beauty and hand her a handkerchief to wipe away her tears. She understands that support is the most important thing now. They sincerely ask Fleta for forgiveness because the plan was originally completely different. The lady did not intend to set up the beauty, so much trying not to choke. The baby asks for forgiveness in return. She will definitely return to the castle for maids. The warden was removed from there, so it will not be terrible. There is no desire for the sister to quarrel with His Majesty over such trifles. They must maintain a good relationship, moving away and wiping away her tears too. The blonde asks if the beauty really wants to come back, looking into her eyes to get the most honest answer possible. In this cold royal palace, only the main character treated the child warmly. She felt calm next to someone who cared and did not allow others to offend or ruin her life. She wants to be close in the future so that contact is always maintained. Fleta sharply shouts out that she does not want to return. Before, she did not feel warmth and thought that she was completely alone in this world. But after she learned what it was like to be with Cézanne, she realized that she had acquired such a trait as selfishness because she wanted to make the woman only her own. The brunette is too young to solve all the problems alone, even if she tries to do the best she can with all her might. At such a moment, it is better to explain how to behave. Little children are supposed to eat lots of tasty things and relax in beautiful places where their parents send them so as not to worry about anything, but ultimately the heroine lost most of her happy childhood because of what was happening in her life. It is possible that sometimes someone may hurt feelings, but at the same time there must be a person with her who will definitely take her side and seek justice. Cézanne smiles tenderly. The second princess wants to become exactly like that. She is ready to do anything for her little sister. And that is what can be said after what was said. The blonde hugs the beauty again, but this time only for a second. The green-eyed one would like Fleta to continue living next to her. She wants genuine happiness, and therefore they will try to achieve this together. Looking straight into the soul, the maiden seems to be begging for her to be believed. Now it would be the most correct thing. The little girl nods her head. Of course, it is easier to agree and not try to distance yourself from society because of the hatred of some people who are very narrow-minded and do not deserve recognition. The conversation is over. The girl was still convinced. The duo went into the hall to have lunch on the table. There are many different dishes that make the appetite awaken only by their beauty. The child stuffs a chicken into his mouth and smiles. This always helps. There is a princess sitting next to me who can't stop smiling just recently. My friend was in tears because she couldn't come to terms with the way things were, but now everything has changed. She is full and happy and doesn't even complain about anything anymore. Such a nice person doesn't deserve to be treated badly. Strange thoughts flashed through her head again. It seems that Cézanne will never be able to understand why her father is so cruel to his own blood and why he despises even her existence. Deciding that it was time to think about something else, the beauty calls Mel closer to her. It seems that due to the lack of wine, she has completely lost her appetite because of this. She does not want anything. The brunette freezes in horror, opening her eyes. The girl realized that she had screwed up in this reality. She was only 17 years old, which meant she couldn't make such adult jokes. Especially when they took her seriously, confusion flashed in her eyes. She had to try to disown them. It seems that the beauty simply misspoke, because in the end she meant grape juice and nothing more. The maid squints her eyes as if she doesn't believe what was said at all, but then promises that she will return very soon and bring the order. They also pour something into the glass for Fleta. She has probably never tried anything like this before. Taking the glass, the girl drinks the contents in greedy gulps. She is enchanted by the taste because it is a little sweet but at the same time sour. Of course, the little one will never refuse more. She smiles because she is happy, fresh and tasty food that melts on the tip of her tongue, clean clothes and a soft bed. All this is undeserved, judging by what the offenders from the past told. But now it is not so. There are people around who are kind to the child and try to make her existence as comfortable as possible. She should be happy, and these are exactly the feelings that one has to experience. The beauty owes all this to Cézanne. The best person in the world, she is, like a ray of sunshine. Even though he failed to give the princess the clover, because she refused asking to keep it for herself. But this does not mean anything. Fleta wants to somehow thank his friend and do everything for her good, although he does not yet fully understand what the strategy should be. The very next morning, the pair headed into the garden, the little one spinning around and jumping up and down with impatience, as perhaps for the first time she was seeing a real horse which was being carefully stroked by the future empress. She stood calmly obeying her mistress. Arya seems to be missing her a lot. The heroine hasn't visited her pet for a long time. It will be even easier this way. This way, she can calmly ride without any problems. She needs to believe that everything will end. Well, the horse is usually calm. Fleta also stands behind and waits to be asked to do something. It is not yet clear what the plan is. The child is asked to come up to pet the baby, and she, as if enchanted, comes closer and reaches out her hand because she wants to understand what the fur feels like. The hand gently touches the side because of her short stature. The girl will not be able to reach the muzzle, but overall everything suits her. A smile fills the face. The animal's eyes are closed in complete calm, as if no one is nearby. The princess laughs easily. Arya liked her sister since she stands so quietly obeying everything that is asked of her. The brunette is happy that at the very first meeting she managed to establish contact. This is what she needed. The duo climb onto the horse's back, and Arya is told to set out, after which she moves forward. The royal castle is visible from afar from such a height. It is seen too well, and its grandeur is breathtaking. Now the little girl understands why her sister comes to the hill so often. In addition to what has become clear, the child now also wants to learn how to ride a horse, because in her opinion this is an important part of training. And in addition to all this, a new skill, the brunette wants to know what it is like to control a powerful horse and not depend on anyone. A servant knocks at the door of His Majesty's chambers and then enters. Greeting the ruler, he was ordered to watch every action of Cézanne. Now she is riding a horse with Fleta. The blonde wants to get even more angry. He sincerely does not understand why the little girl decided to hang out with a girl in the temple at the beginning of her whole life. The priest said that the emperor's daughter has the power of darkness. This symbol on her hand will lead to the collapse of the empire. Something had to be done as soon as possible. He had been told about it many times, but in the end, nothing worked out. The concubine dying begged that her child be saved since nothing would work out with life. The last wish is usually the most important. Liana never asked for much, so this time the hero did not refuse. He was ashamed to behave as he wanted. The farthest kingdom in the empire is Fiorin. The man asks the children if any of them know anything about the lands. Luca raises his hand. First, the climate in those places is very hot, which is why there is not enough food, but the kingdom is rich in various treasures. The prince guessed correctly, because he read several chapters in the book about this in order to be prepared. In order not to listen only to his son, the emperor also calls Vivian, who it seems was looking somewhere out the window all this time. So she says that her brother's answer was quite sufficient. She thinks that there is nothing more to add. It was time for information from Cézanne, who was also sitting silently lost in her thoughts. Fiorin cannot be called a large state. It is rather too small in size. Despite its modest size, those lands should not be ignored. Otherwise, it will only get worse. As Luca already said, it is distinguished by a large volume of economic benefits, such as have not been seen in other countries except for the capital of Orontos. This country also includes a large number of trained knights. They are literally born to fight. It is in their blood, and everyone is ready to live until the victorious end. The army protects the borders day and night so that if something happens, they can react and do everything as best as possible. The man thanks Cézanne for her answer. In his opinion, it was a detailed and beautiful answer, which actually sounded good. Vivian, who was sitting next to him, wrinkled her face in a nasty grimace for a second, but quickly changed so that no one would notice. The blonde waits for her sister to go out into the corridor. Classes are already over, and everyone has their own things to do, appearing behind the girl. The woman asks if it's true that she's hanging out with a little one, as rumors say spreading around the castle for more than one day. Although almost all maids are not treated very well because they are considered lower-class people, but Fleta, who has royal blood in her veins since birth, was treated worse than cattle. This was some kind of injustice. This should not have happened. At first, the lady wondered who was treating the child so cruelly, and one day she followed only to find out that Vivian's older sister was behind it all this time. She had been bullying the girl, and now she pretends not to know who Cézanne was hanging out with. In the past, the blonde had nothing to do with this mess and didn't even pay attention, trying to do her own thing. But now she will definitely do something because she won't be able to leave things as they are. The girl hears about something like this for the first time and also pretends that she doesn't understand what is being talked about and what it all refers to, making a calm face. The lady says that she also heard something interesting. A villain has appeared in their castle who likes to humiliate children and ruin their whole lives. If such a person really lives in the first imperial palace, he will definitely not be shown mercy, because everyone should understand that behind every action there is something irreversible. In any case, this is true. Coming very close, the lady leans towards her sister's ear. The heroine does not know such individuals and perhaps has never met them because she remains kind and has a bright soul. Of course, it was stupid to hope for a sincere confession, but somewhere there, deep in her soul, the lady still thought that everything would be fine. It was not true. A smile appears on her face. Just in time, Vivian, of course, cannot give away her terrible image. She did not know that her sister liked to play detectives, but if something becomes known, she promises that she will tell in small details to help the investigation. Cézanne will be grateful when she answers. Her voice is filled with anger and coldness that can freeze the soul, realizing that this will not end well. The beauty is going to leave. She completely forgot about her other affairs that have accumulated. The expression on her face was not noticeable, but the woman was very angry. She realized that it would not work out that easy for her. It would be easier to give up and think of a new plan, remaining alone in the corridor. Cézanne is about to leave, but she is met by Luca, who suggests going for a walk. Each of the two noticed that they haven't been seeing each other very often lately, alas, but it's true, although they would like to spend more time together. The little sister has been promising to play a game of checkers for several weeks now, but each time she disappointingly refuses due to lack of time. The green-eyed girl didn't refuse on purpose, she just had her own urgent matters, smiling awkwardly. The little girl asks for forgiveness lately. She hasn't been herself and understands that sometimes she makes mistakes. This can't help but seem annoying. The blonde, as usual, exaggerates, making a real drama out of the situation. He pretends to be upset that his sister has fallen out of love with him and turns away. In any case, the hero is simply obliged to beat the beauty again. He treats her like a child. This is even more irritating. Suddenly, some piece of paper appears in his hands, folded to one side, with a ribbon on top, so that what is written cannot be seen. The girl calmly asks, "What is there?" But Luca smiles slyly. He thought that the lady would be happy, because it is a map of the underground tunnels of the imperial palace. Instantly taking the thing, the blonde carefully studies everything. It is clear that she was not particularly surprised that she let down her older brother, who sincerely hoped to get what he came for. Her eyes study the expression on Cézanne's face. After so many years, it was possible to understand her every emotion and the reason for using it. The man assumes that the beauty has already seen the drawing somewhere, and the lady freezes. She stutters but asks to believe that this is unreal. However, where else could she have met something so unique before this Erantos received this map as a gift? But she cannot say, because it was in a past life. There are many rumors surrounding the thing, so it became known long ago this is the only more or less logical answer that fully meets the criteria that was set. The girl asks where Luca got it from. Even attempts to search the library in the hope of finding a scroll were unsuccessful. It turned out that the main character drew the markings himself and completed the work it was done especially for Cézanne. He hopes that she will like the gift. A calm smile appears on his face while his cheeks are slightly red. The girl sincerely thanks for the way she was treated. As you know, Luca is kind and sympathetic. Everyone can envy his character because so much fits in just one person. Sometimes the man still behaves like a mischievous boy. If you think about it, he was always on the side of the second princess and never condemned her for the choice she made. A crazy idea comes to mind, which would definitely be worth trying. The beauty turns to the young man and asks him to follow her. It seems she has someone to introduce. Maybe at least this time, everything will go without any incidents. Following his sister down the corridor, the blonde, of course, starts asking questions. It's hard to resist. He wants to know who will be introduced to him, but the lady is pulling out the intrigue as soon as they arrive. Everything will become visible. The worst possible scenario is the appearance of a lover. Perhaps no one in the family is ready for this. Fleta is sitting on the sofa in the living room. She was doing something, but she heard the princess's voice and immediately perked up. This happens almost always when it comes to this person the little girl went out to meet, so she calmly heads forward along the corridor. A man appeared from behind. For some reason, unpleasant moments played out in my head, such as that icy gaze of the emperor. They are somewhat similar, noticing the horror on the child's face. The blonde carefully bends down and asks what happened. It is important for her to know in order to try to cheer him up. Even without words, it became clear what caused the sudden change in the situation. It was better for the brother to wait a little while. The two talked. Kneeling before his sister, Erantos asks for forgiveness for not warning that she would bring guests with her. This probably changed the situation a little. This guy is the eldest in the family, named Luca. The princess wanted to introduce them, so she invited him, not thinking that he would somehow object or that he would ruin the lives of both of them. Surely the little girl still feels bad after talking with His Majesty, and no one will blame her for this. It is all quite logical and understandable, given the situation and the words that were said and stuck in the child's heart. Cézanne once again made a mistake, even if she did not want to, and tried to be as careful as possible. First of all, it was still necessary to ask the beauty she also has every right to say something. So this had to be taken into account if the brunette is still having a hard time. She can be sent to the castle for maids early, where she will be a little calmer, at least for a moment. Although the emperor rejected his daughter, it is not the princess's fault, because she tried with all her might to make sure that Fleta's fate brought her only the best. The little girl asks not to worry if they want to introduce her to Arantos. There will be no problem, she can definitely overcome a small conversation. The duo returned back to the room where the prince was still sitting on the sofa, having already finished his tea. The girl smiled. She asked to introduce the very girl who was under her care as usual, trying to show her best manners. The brunette bowed her head and greeted the member of the imperial family with all honors. Luca almost immediately jumped up from his seat and began to smile, also saying his name. This is exactly what was needed. The girl has not been teaching the little girl for very long, but she already observes all the manners. Undoubtedly, this is progress, and only the most stupid person who does not care at all about this would disagree. The hand reaches out to the beauty while the hero wants to say something. Fleta freezes because after everything that happened in the past, she absolutely cannot trust people. Hands grab the girl's cheeks. She is too cute not to touch at least once. The cheeks are soft and bring back memories of Cézanne when she was about the same age, exactly as charming as the brunette. And despite the fact that now she is also a beauty in childhood, everything was different. Most of all, he liked to play chess with her, and not only. And now, alas, she forgets everything that she promises. The young man frightened Fleta, so he quickly pulls his hands away. The evening came, a beautiful order covered the sky, forcing her to look straight ahead. The main character was afraid that the man's reaction would be the same as her father's, not at all positive. But Luca, as always, was kind and friendly. When he told her that the child could ask for anything, they would definitely take care of her, so she wouldn't have to worry. The brother may have even gone too far because he constantly tried to be close to the baby, and even wanted to touch her cheeks again. Before leaving, as if saying goodbye, the princess did not know how to react, but she protected her ward, so she thought that everything ended quite normally. The girl is distracted from reading because the culprit has appeared nearby. The brunette apologizes for interrupting the beauty's occupation, but she just waves it off. It wasn't so important to dwell on this attention. In any case, nothing terrible happened. The first thing the heroine asks is what happened, because the eyes even look a little scared. It's already evening and it's getting a little chilly, so Fleta took care of her friend and brought a warm blanket which she gave to Mel. Now this is the most important thing. The blonde wants to thank, but in the middle of the sentence, she starts coughing as if she is sick. It seems that she is still not feeling well, so it is necessary to urgently bring tea. And not only that, finding herself in bed, it was decided to rest a little. It is quite possible to refuse the fireplace because it is not so cold yet. Overprotection is not always good, even if we take as an example the care that always makes you smile from the heart. The Virgo assures that she is completely fine, so she can go and rest. The child needs sleep even more than she does. It's evening outside, you definitely shouldn't neglect something like that. The dark-eyed girl lowers her head and whispers something sadly. Being alone when you are sick is the most terrible feeling, and this only makes it even harder physically and mentally. The girl herself understands perfectly well what she is talking about, and this is connected with where and how she lived before, in that closed room. It's hard to hear such words from such a young lady. She went through suffering and pain alone, which at some point became an integral part of her soul and consciousness. The situation was getting worse every day. Such thoughts make me sick. Vivian did something terrible, and one day she will pay. The girl is going to cheer up the beauty. She understands that she shouldn't refuse help. So as not to spoil her mood even more, she bends down and calmly thanks the lady for the fact that she even exists in this world, and for the fact that she is now nearby trying to take care of her. The princess promises that she will also be there when the girl is feeling bad. She will do everything possible to make her life as comfortable as possible. Of course, it is better that the lady does not get sick, but in any case, nothing will happen if she is looked after. She actively nods, agreeing. Deciding that it was time to take further action, the beauty says that the maid told her that a better cure for a cold than sleep has not yet been found. Small hands pat the pillow, forcing her to obey and lie down to rest. Tomorrow morning her health will certainly improve significantly. Before relaxing, the heroine understands that she was asked to sing a lullaby. The voice is clear and the sound is like honey for the ears, so closing her eyes, the lady experiences real pleasure. Such a bright child is different from the rest, and Orantos had no right to behave like this. It seems that her father was very wrong about her. Morning came. The sun looked in through the window, making her smile and stretch. Of course, the lady was very pleased. She herself did not notice how she fell asleep. Apparently, because of the cold, she had no strength left, but the rest really helped, so there is no point in complaining about such things. It seems that the baby fell asleep while she was taking care of her sister. She was found lying next to her on the pillow and peacefully snoring. If she was moved, she would immediately have to wake up. But she doesn't want to take away the crumbs of comfort that she has, so the blonde just carefully straightens the blanket that had gotten bunched up around her. Because of the movements, the dark-eyed one begins to mumble something. It is not surprising that some people sometimes talk in their sleep, not quite controlling themselves. The princess's face instantly lights up with the most beautiful smile. Because she was called a sister, it seems that Fleta considers them family. Although she does not want to admit it, it is still difficult for her to fully trust. Having successfully arranged the sortie and not even spoiling the sleep of her ward, the beauty penetrated into the corridor where she calmly exhaled with relief, thus everything will end more or less well. There is Mel, who wants to ask whether the blonde will participate in the gala dinner, which as usual will take place at the same time. If the lady still feels bad, she has every right to refuse and stay home now. There are too many thoughts in her head. Choosing one is almost impossible. For some reason, after recent events, she does not want to see her father at all, which is quite logical. But this is a state matter that cannot be transferred to personal matters. Nodding her head as if giving a sign, the princess asks to convey that she will be present. The maid should return soon to help the mistress get ready. She does not do it on her own, so this time too, she will not deviate from tradition. It's already midday, the sun is at its peak, which makes it even a little hot, especially if you sit by the window. But this doesn't stop Fleta. She's at the table and thinking about the latest events. The brunette calmly asks if something is bothering the beauty, and she only, after a few minutes of silence, nods. There is something important at this level. The friend's words stuck in my head. She asked me to think about what I would like to get for Fleta, but first to come up with something that she likes. I need to want something. But it turned out that the task was much more difficult than it initially seemed. The baby had never thought about what she liked before. There was never a need for it, so she didn't pay attention and went through life as it was. Mel smiles. She understands the dilemma, but it's better not to burden herself so much. Looking from the outside, the beauty will come to an answer. Before doing anything, you have to finish your meal. Giving up food for the sake of thinking is not the best idea for sure. The maid puts a spoonful of pancakes in her mouth and hears admiration from her charge. It was very, very tasty for her, so a smile is visible on her face and her eyes are shining. In fact, the child would eat something like this every day. It seems that something has just been found that the little one likes. She cannot believe it, but it is really so, because an incomprehensible emotion appears on her face now. Thanks to the maid, the strategy is clear. We can move on. The brunette starts drawing everything that comes to mind. She really liked the horse that the princess has, and she also liked riding it, so you need to draw everything in the best possible way. In addition to these two things the child really likes: cute animals, especially cats, dogs, and white rabbits. In any case, choosing the one she likes the most won't be difficult because it's Her Majesty Cézanne, who will always now occupy a place of honor in her heart. That's how a whole album came out of everything that Fleta liked in the new palace and new life. The blonde is already ready. She calmly walks down the corridor but grabs one hand over the other in an attempt to understand how she should behave next. She is somehow a little worried, but in any case there is still no choice. Since consent has already been given, going back and choosing something else will definitely not work. A familiar voice is heard behind her and the princess turns around. There stands the Duke, who greets the girl. The conversation turns to the book, and she immediately apologizes for not being able to return it back. Unfortunately, it happened because of too many things to do. Adrian smiles, assuring her that there is no need to rush. Without allowing the conversation to continue, fate in the form of Luca enters the main entrance. The girl arrived quite quickly today. Even the brother himself did not expect this. He himself had only recently arrived and was afraid that he would accidentally be late, thereby angering his father. They should have some important topic today. Only after a few minutes does the prince notice Sreken, who immediately bows down to greet his acquaintance. The blue-eyed man nods in response, carefully studying the man who caught his eye. The blonde apologizes for interrupting. It seems the two were talking until the hero arrived. He can't help but understand that they already know each other and are also friends. Although this is too strong a word, the couple had only crossed paths a few times before. Taking Cézanne closer, His Majesty laughs nervously, repeating the same words as his interlocutor. The man decides that he and his sister suddenly needed to chat in the end. The girl does not understand what is happening but still intends to leave with him. Looking back at the Archduke, who doesn't even quite understand what's going on, the young man continues to whisper in his ear. They've crossed paths several times, but this doesn't seem true at all. This man is definitely up to something. He definitely wouldn't just get close to the princess. His brother is making things up again. The Trinity is also standing in the middle of the corridor when approaching footsteps are heard in the distance, or rather the light tapping of heels. The young man left his sister Vivian alone and decided to run away without even warning. Although she asked him to accompany her to the meeting, the family feast is about to begin. Thoughts are mixed up. Of course, voicing them would be suicide, but in general, the girl understands how she needs to behave. They chat as if nothing had happened immediately after leaving the princess alone, deciding that nothing terrible will happen because the maiden is of no value anyway. Every day from the prince's lips you only hear Cézanne, this Cézanne that it begins to irritate her incredibly and silently turn her against her sister. The heroine asked to be near her, but the man again got involved with his family favorite. Sometimes you can safely say that he sees no boundaries. The blonde tries not to get angry, but it turns out very badly. Her gaze turns to the Duke standing next to her. Her keen eyes examine his hair, his handsome features and clothes that emphasize the stateliness of his figure. The guy could help raise his status if only he agreed to date Vivian. The hero's head was filled with completely different thoughts. He understands that the girl is not at all like her brother and sister, even if she hasn't said anything special yet. Her facial expression already makes it clear that Sreken wouldn't want to cross paths with such a slippery person. Killian tries not to show hostility and quickly greets the princess, following all the rules of etiquette and manners. This guy does not seem to be interested in the girl at all. Still, I wonder how old he is, because he looks very young for the Duke of an entire kingdom. The brunette finds it hard to listen to the new person. Sometimes members of the imperial family can be too intrusive or noisy. Deciding that it's time to run away, the man calmly gets ready to say goodbye. He needs to talk to the second princess in a separate place. So far, she is the only one who behaves with restraint. The hand squeezes the fan so tightly that it almost crunches. The expensive stones hurt the hand a little, but the elder Arantos doesn't even think about it. Everything has returned to Cézanne again. Even Killian wants to spend time with her, turning sharply to his sister and putting a fake smile on his face. The beauty asks when she managed to arrive. Usually this happens much later. Trying to back away so as not to feel too much pressure, the girl calmly says that it happened literally 5 minutes ago. Vivian should have been warned so that she could have arrived even earlier and had time to chat. This has never happened before, but she pretends that they are best friends. Luca wants to know something. He hasn't said anything up to this point, but it seems the time has come to open his mouth and try to tell the man wants to accompany his sister on her birthday, which is already gradually approaching. Waving it off, the blonde assures that there is no need for this. The princess, standing next to him, measures her brother with an angry look, warning him about something. Having heard the good news, the heroine smiles from ear to ear, saying that it seems that the baby does not need help from strangers or from those who are part of her family. If everything turned out this way, Luca will accompany Vivian, who also will not refuse someone who is nearby. The plan that was built works like a charm. The maid steps forward, announcing the arrival of the Emperor and Empress, who almost immediately enter the door that swung open. The blonde immediately looks at his daughter, but she turns away, pretending that he simply does not exist and trying to ignore him as much as possible. Everyone gathered at the table, and at the appointed hour the meal began. Beautiful dishes with drinks were everywhere. Everyone tried to keep up the conversation in their own way. The queen suggested trying the lamb ribs, which turned out wonderful, and Vivian started talking about the weather outside. Nothing changes. His Majesty sits with a stony expression on his face. It is unpleasant for him to talk about what is happening because there are many thoughts about Cézanne in his head. Luca asks if his father would like to invite the Duke to some event, one of which could be hunting the best option. The prince's proposal is not bad. All that remains is to ask the prince, who of course smiles and nods in agreement. Everyone has already heard that the young man is a real monster in battle, so the hunt promises to be interesting. Adrian is not as good as many. Say these stories are made up by people with rich imaginations. The young man is so modest that he can't even take anything as a compliment. They will go into the forest at dawn. Vivian asks to join. She is only strong in magic, so she will not be of much use, but I would still like to be present. The man decides to ask Cézanne if she would like to go with them. Unlike her sister, she even owns a sword. In the morning, the maiden sleeps soundly, so she refuses. A strange feeling began to accumulate in the air, and the atmosphere thickens more and more. The Empress laughs. The girl is still preparing for the banquet. She cannot be distracted. The Archduke appears to be an extremely reliable person. It is almost impossible not to notice. The lady heard that the man was only a year older than Vivian. This year, the guy turned 19 years old. It is very difficult to be the head of a country at such a young age, so he would like to grow up sooner. It would be good if the Empire and Sraken maintained friendly relations. It would be nice to introduce the man to one of the daughters. He suits Vivian better. The relationship has been maintained for 3 generations, and the hero hopes that everything will continue to be the same. The man became curious about something. Some say that there are 4 stars in Arantos, but here there are only 3. Hearing about the 3rd princess or the 2nd prince, the emperor squeezes the glass with force. It bursts and the liquid spills. Lowering his voice and showing the seriousness of his intentions, the young man calmly says that in the empire there are only 3 royal persons born of the empress. The Duke asks for forgiveness. He ruined the whole dinner with his tactless question, saying something wrong. The rest of the evening, Cézanne looked at Darian. It seems he knows about Fleta. After dinner, the lady stopped the guy near the carriage to ask questions. Nothing happened. The girl simply expressed a desire to return the very book that she had taken. Before dinner, the blonde said that she had left the item in the palace. She calmly stated that she had simply lied. All this is not done for the sake of the book, so sitting inside the carriage, Adrian asks what the reason was. During dinner, the young man asked a question about the 4th star of this kind. It seemed clear that he knew something. The hero freezes and cries out in surprise to understand. It seems that Cézanne is aware of her sister or brother for the Duke. This is extremely important, so the topic was raised there. First, it is worth answering the question asked, and then begin the discussion. This is what the blonde is waiting for. She asks for everything to be fine. And Sarkin nods in agreement. He asks not to tell anyone about the conversation that took place. It is believed that this will be the best idea, considering how the emperor reacted that day. The princess became the only one who could know the whole story. She had to listen and swear that everything would be fine, that nothing like that would happen after the meeting was over. The girl returned back to her chambers, where she was immediately met by Fleta, who asked how the dinner went without going into details. The woman simply said that everything was good. Of course, the lady asked the little girl how she spent her time. She did too, and she seemed to be lit up with the joy that had been building up inside her for a long time. She thought hard about the woman's request, and therefore time flew by too quickly. At first, she didn't even notice, but then she realized that she had missed the moment. The blonde smiles back and lightly cups the baby's face in her hands. She asks to tell her everything. As it was at that moment, Mel appeared behind her, who asked whether to prepare her house dress for the mistress, which she usually wears after dinner. First, she wants to talk to her sister and then change. The princess sits down on a chair, and next to her there is a girl who holds out an album she still can't write. She came up with an original way to draw in the pictures. The maid helped her, and also initially explained the essence of the task. You can already say in advance that everything is very beautiful, but it's time to look inside. The first pages show different animals, which she liked perhaps most of all. If the little girl wants it so much, they can have one pet. Fleta jumps almost to the ceiling with joy because she could not expect that she would be offered something so simple. The brunette starts listing various cuties out loud because she can't decide when sharing her thoughts a dog or a rabbit or a cat would be a very good option. The girl suggests taking her time and choosing wisely so as not to feel deprived in every sense. It is worth starting with one because there is definitely not enough love for everyone they need to be looked after, and this does not always work out considering that time also takes away everything else. The little girl wants to say something, but sadly lowers her head. She understands why then His Majesty is hard because he has to take care of his entire family. After what was said, horror froze in the eyes of her interlocutor. For a second, she realized that all this had gone in the wrong direction. She carefully leaned down and hugged the beauty. The emperor had no right to treat her like that. Such a terrible act perhaps cannot be justified by absolutely anything. The friend does not have to be aware of the whole situation, but she must be sure that she has not done anything wrong. The man himself acted in such a way that after that he did not want anything. The woman smiles. She asks not to worry because she will definitely try to take care of her sister, not letting her be offended. It seems that now it is time to move on through the album with the drawings that are there. Perhaps the lady likes only 3 things, but this is not so. There is another sheet which the child shyly holds out forward. There is a princess drawn on it, because while Fleta was in the process, she realized that she liked Cézanne more than all the others. The lady can't help but rejoice. She reaches out to tenderly embrace her interlocutor. Such an expectation to hear something like this was impossible, but this does not mean that it does not bring joy to life. The blonde moves away. She has another topic in store that can be discussed. The girl remembers the Duke, who then in the clearing will give the same clover that he found the hero said that he would like to meet the baby tomorrow. Of course, if she agrees, it remains to understand what Fleta herself wants, but she has time to think and understand. Adrian himself said so because apparently he liked the brunette absolutely. Everyone likes her because she is too cute. The princess will not leave the heroine completely alone. This cannot end well, like last time, considering that Fleta is very shy. The blonde wants to be supportive. In any case, even the right words will have an effect that will be different. Blushing, the girl asks to do as suggested, showing that it seems that she really likes the princess. Night falls. This day was quite tiring and took all the strength, so both went to sleep. The woman was the first to go to bed, while Fleta remained silently lying next to her. Looking at his face, the sparkling golden curls that fall on his bright face make you smile. This man definitely came out of some beautiful fairy tale. A genuine excitement accumulates inside the little girl, which does not help her concentrate. Clinging to the one lying next to her, the heroine ponders what to do and how to behave. The princess is too beautiful. It is not clear what to do if the Duke suddenly falls in love with her. The hunting grounds are located closer to the north of the imperial palace. It is in that place, in addition to the trees, several transmission gates were created with the help of such. You can easily use special magic and summon monsters. This is usually done by specially trained people. After summoning the monsters, those gathered enjoy a real hunt with a greeting line near the forest north of Ermel. Those who prepared for this event in advance gathered near the entrance. There are 2 magicians who open the gates and begin to move their staffs in the air. Luca looks around. His eyes are burning with interest, as if he had never been to the northern forests, although in fact it was a very long time ago, so some fragments disappeared from his head. He will finally be able to stretch his bones and practice his skills in order to improve. One of the servants who had tagged along with them approaches His Majesty. He has a new important message. As it turns out, Princess Vivian is not feeling well, which is why she refused to hunt where she would only constantly get in the way. Perhaps next time she will be nearby. The hero nods. He understood everything and does not express any emotions, although inside he is extremely skeptical. He is already used to this kind of thing. The girl is probably just idle. She just spoke out at that dinner to attract the Duke's attention. Each member of the Ermel family is born with the power of light, and when puberty comes to an end, they gain the ability to summon a familiar. The animal that Luca has is a hawk and Vivian has a lizard. Both are good enough because they can be used in battles. However, they are still unreliably strong. The emperor himself has a lion as a familiar, which is much better than all the others. He hoped that its strength would be passed on by inheritance. On the second princess's birthday, the priest examined her and realized that the king's requests had come true. Cézanne, as it turned out, possessed the highest level of magic. It was already predetermined she would be able to summon the strongest spirit, and thus would be a good help to the kingdom. His Majesty is distracted from the thoughts he accidentally moved into. The magician asks at what level the young man wishes to hunt. Usually it is something in between, so as not to overwork his friends or family who are also participating. Luca steps forward to add something of his own. He is quite good at hunting monsters previously. They were a problem for him that he had to try to overcome, but now he managed to pass the 5th level so he can be considered a great hunter. The man notices the stern gaze of his father standing next to him, who understands that it would be better not to say such a thing, and immediately stumbles. Of course, he needs to find out about Darian. The Duke is hunting for the first time, so he will have to be very careful, otherwise it will be embarrassing. The blonde nods, and then looks at Sir Sarkin, who smiles, looking away. In my opinion, he knows exactly what he wants, but he is not going to say. Usually he is quite a risk-taker, but this time, for some reason, he wants to risk even more. You need to fear for your life, but always in moderation. Otherwise, you will end up in your cowards. The main character smiles back. A fire sparkles in his eyes, which shows a drop of excitement. He confidently suggests choosing the 2nd level, which is close to the very first. Until this moment, only he himself managed to pass the 1st or 2nd without exceptions in other people. Luca stutters. Of course it was to be expected because his father was always such a person, but this time he just doesn't know what to say. The step that is the most difficult was not part of the plans, but no one listens. Erantos looks at the Duke. He believes in him, so everything will work out. Behind him runs some lizard with many eyes, in which hunger burns. The animal turned out to be much faster than Luca expected. So now he tries not to lose his way so as not to fall into the clutches of others who will bring him only death and horror. This time, he tries something like this. For the first time, the 5th level was undoubtedly much better. Jumping to the side, the young man leads his familiar forward. The bright hawk breaks out and strikes at the monster's face one after another, trying to beat it away from its owner. A second later, stepping back, he allows one to see the unreal. After all, there was not a single scratch left on the lizard. The skin turned out to be impenetrable. It becomes clear that the end is near. The blonde does not understand what to do next because all this seems too difficult a task. Sarkin appears in front, who throws the body back in the end. Everything ended because the animal's head was cut off, thereby easily winning. Sir Darian looks back to say something, but then looks at the bushes in which a million different scarlet eyes are visible. A second later, a whole flock of similar animals rushes forward, which are left without heads, paws, and tails. Sleight of hand, and a sword with beautiful steel makes him win time after time. Luca has just recovered. He cannot believe what he had to see. Still, the rumors are not lying. The Duke really turned out to be too strong, and on top of all that, well-trained, that he managed to calmly finish the battle. Erantos comes out of the shadows with his familiar and praises his friend, who did not disappoint, adding heat to the battle. Coming even closer, the Emperor suggests raising the level. This way they will reach the best, and everything will be fine. The man bows his head and politely asks not to continue. He will no longer be enough for the foreground because it is still necessary to take into account the forces spent in advance. Luca looks around and peers into the guy's face. It's obvious that he's lying, just like he did before. He doesn't look tired at all, as if he just lay in bed all day, unlike the prince himself, who seems to be barely breathing. Erantos exhales and agrees that there's no point in continuing, although he sounds a little disappointed. The blonde will wait for their next hunt together. It remains to be hoped that it will happen very soon. Not like the last time when they were unable to meet. When the meeting was scheduled after all that was said, the king calmly turns around, getting ready to leave the clearing and leave the two. As soon as the forest became a little quieter and calmer, the prince rested a little and approached the Duke. Now he understands why everyone calls him a monster of the battlefield. This man simply has an immeasurable amount of power that has accumulated before this. Luca could not believe what he heard. But having seen it live when his life was saved, having killed the lizard he began to admire. The brunette also thanks for the compliments. He is pleased to know that next to him is someone who considers him a good fighter. He was also amazed by the connection of the royal person with his familiar, who appeared at the first call and followed the orders while doing it at the speed of light. Next time the young man will definitely not disappoint the hero and will do everything as it should. The hero listened to everything that was said, but then said that it seemed to him that it was time to go to meet his younger sister. The interlocutor immediately became a little scared, showing interest. Perhaps they were talking about Vivian, but no, because everything is tied to the second princess about whom it is already known. The blue-eyed man frowned a little. He wondered why Sarkhan was asking about Cézanne. He didn't want them to get even a little closer, so he decided that he would understand earlier and prevent everything. The young man brushed it off, saying that nothing happened, and was about to leave. In fact, Killian is even a little ashamed, because he has to lie to members of the imperial family. He waits until he is far away and takes out the note that Cézanne sent in the morning. On the paper is written a request to come after 2 o'clock in the afternoon to the princess's palace in her chambers. The man prepared himself properly, and as soon as he came out of the shower, which took him 2 whole hours, the adjutant entered the room holding a bundle with a pet in his hands, which he had to find as a gift. The brunette himself at first did not understand why the gentleman needed a hare, but he briefly explained. Then in the evening, when the two were sitting in the carriage, they had an important conversation. Sarkhan asked not to tell anyone anything, because what would be said was intended for the ears of only the princess. The young man had an older sister. She was a saint, and also a princess of their state. The girl's name was Liana. Just one name was enough for the blonde to understand what was being discussed. The heroine was the concubine of Emperor Charles, whom he had taken for himself a long time ago. The boy remembers well the day when the lady was leaving. They collected all the necessary things for her and put her in the carriage. She hugged the baby and promised that they would see each other again. One day it would happen. It was a strategic marriage and a profitable deal for the country. There was no choice but to agree. Just a year after the wedding, a letter arrived from Irantos. It was shrouded in an unpleasant atmosphere, and the ribbon on top was black, which did not bode well. It said that Liana had been murdered. Her father had kept the cause of death a secret, because by order of the emperor no one was allowed to know the details. Adrian couldn't give up, at least not that easily after everything that happened. He felt sorry for the woman, so after a while he found out that she died during childbirth. They were too difficult, so it was almost impossible to survive them. The girl offers her sincere condolences. She did not know her personally, but she heard that she was an extremely kind soul. She would like her to live longer and for her life to be filled with joy, which she was never able to receive because of this whole wedding and from Carl. The conversation continues immediately after the guy agrees with what was just said. No news about the child was said. It turned out that all this was covered in mystery. The king himself pretended that he did not understand what was being discussed and did not consider Fleta his daughter. Sarkhan swore that if the sister's child was alive, he would find him at all costs. It is for this reason that the man asked about the 4th star of their Ermel family at the dinner to which he was invited. Everything gradually falls into place. It is the blonde's turn to answer questions. The hero wants to know why she invited him to go with her into this carriage. The woman asks not to be scared and to listen from beginning to end. His story can really change the whole idea, but this does not mean that you need to leave. The guy has already met the child, and this is the same girl in the forest. Fleta is the 4th star who has been wanted for more than 1 year. The brunette doesn't believe what was said. At first he was so worried that he even jumped forward, but then he sank back down, running his fingers through his hair. He can't understand why no one calls the girl a princess, although the blood of the Irantos family flows in her. In his opinion, this is a little unfair. Everything should be different. Unfortunately, the green-eyed girl is not going to continue the conversation. She has nothing more to say, no matter how much she would like to add something else. The heroine can only say that her family forcibly offended the girl. She agrees that she deserved much more, and this is exactly what she will get in time. Nobody likes Fleta. It became clear when the girl first discovered her. The little girl can't even dream of life as a member of the imperial family because she definitely won't get something like that. Killian lowers his head. He knew that the emperor was cruel, but he didn't suspect that he would do something like that to a blood relative. Cézanne is glad that the man feels such anger, even if it all sounds pretty wrong. In her understanding, for sure she is happy that there is at least one more person who wants to take care of his niece and give her a better life. He has to ask again, because it is not clear what his companion means. What the princess suggests may sound unexpected. She wants them to join forces for the sake of Fleta, who deserves it. It is quite difficult for one person to try to keep track of a baby of this age and combine his own life, too. The young man exhales. He has no choice, but no one is forcing him. This is a pure desire which is understandable. He would like to meet the brunette to talk, and for her to start getting used to him a little, to see him as a friend and an adult figure who will always come to the rescue. She will never be allowed to return to that terrible past life. The morning of the meeting that was scheduled arrived from the very morning both girls got ready and began to wait for the guest. The brunette sat by the window and turned her head to look like a duke approaching the castle. Cézanne came up from behind to ask if the beauty was worried, and she only shook her head if something was wrong. You can always refuse, but no one gave consent to this either. Now the child looks like a cowardly dog who can't stop worrying and lies as if everything is fine. The blonde puts her hand on the top of her head to gently ruffle her beautiful smooth hair. Nothing terrible will happen. Sarkin is a kind person, and especially his sister will always be there. There is a knock at the door, and then a servant appears who announces the arrival of the Duke Darien. Thanks for the invitation, simultaneously adjusting his cufflinks. This is all the girl's merit because she agreed to meet and did not even refuse it. She calmly decided that everything will be as Killian asked. The little girl hid behind her eldest's dress, and even blushed a little. She is a little shy around strangers, even if in fact the Duke is someone she has already seen. Then in the forest, the man will try to be as nice as possible, and therefore is not going to push too much, asking questions or something like that. Sitting down on one knee, the young man takes out of his jacket pocket a box that interested her from the very beginning. The gift is quite small, but giving it will mean a lot. He wants his niece to decide to accept the package and look inside. Anticipation shines in her eyes. The child barely squeezed out the words. Her name is not a lady but Fleta, and in the future it is better to address her by name. The blonde leans closer, assuming that she can still accept the gift. She whispers in her ear that this is the same person who gave her a 4-leaf clover in that forest, and the one who smiled pleasantly at that time. The girl still reaches out with her hands and takes the box, which she then hands over to Mel, who volunteered to help open it. Inside was a beautiful small figurine, very similar to a horse. It seemed that in some way there was a similarity with Arya, but after the Duke's words, it became clear that this was indeed the case. Blue-eyed thanks, sir. She no longer feels a drop of fear because she is next to a person who is normal and will not cause pain. The first thing the child asks is if Darien made this gift himself. The work is really very small. Everything is depicted very nicely. All this was nice considering that the hero did it with his own hands, as it turned out a little later after the thanks. He says that this is not all there is in addition, or rather something basic. The man points to the exit and asks to go with him to the garden where you can find a box. Somewhere between the trees, there will be a surprise hidden this time. Unlike the clover, you will be able to find it without the Duke's help because he tried to leave it. Not so far away, he winks and points his hand forward as if calling for action. The thing will be braided with the same bright red ribbon as the box with the figurine. The girl promised that she would definitely find everything and do everything possible to make it as good as possible. She went and looked behind every bush that came her way. Suddenly something caught her attention in front on the table in the gazebo. There is a basket which seems to be specially covered with a bright towel. The ribbon on the gift seems similar. So Fleta moves closer. Something moves inside. This makes her feel a little uneasy, but then a snow-white rabbit jumps forward, attracting attention. It climbs into the woman's arms. She has to gasp in surprise. It breaks out on its own. Footsteps are heard behind, then claps, and the Duke's voice, of course. There was no mistaking the lady's abilities. She managed to get her gift on the first try. The little girl smiles and accepts the praise. She has not yet formulated the words that would help to imagine her joy. The brunette heard that the princess really likes rabbits, so he tried to find the cutest one. Of course, he will not mention the fact that it was Cézanne who told him everything, who gave a whole lecture on what the little sister likes and what would be better to avoid. Fleta lowers her voice and asks why they treat her so kindly. As it turned out, the Duke has a niece who looks like a baby, so he behaves more friendly after the question. Sarkin hesitated a little, but the blonde climbed forward to explain and not scare the brunette. Her mood seemed to be improving. All that remains is to wait until there are no more doubts. A woman always helps out even in this difficult moment. Nodding, the young man agrees. The princess is right in what she said. The guy's friend has the same dark hair. She is the same age and height as Fleta. Thoughts are confused. Liana probably looked the same when she was younger. The Duke does not believe that he could not recognize her from the first meeting. Bowing politely, the hero expresses his joy that the gifts were liked, even if he knew in advance that nothing bad would happen. A joyful light burns in his eyes. The little girl asks if she really looks so much like her niece, and he laughs because it seems he was even a little scared when he saw her face. If the truth was really told, the girl agrees to be the man's companion and promises that she will do everything in her power to be near and amuse the Duke. The news seems wonderful. It will be more than enough, really. It is. The young man asks if he scares the beauty anymore, and she nods in agreement. Now this man seems even too cute. His smile makes her happy, and it will be quite good to play with him, especially if the princess is nearby all this time. She is like protection, and also the closest person. The man asks if they will be friends with him just because of the gifts he gave the little girl. Freezes with a frightened expression on her face and shakes her head. Killian laughs. What was said was just an innocent joke that should not have had such a strong effect. The main character could not even imagine that the young man could smile so radiantly. She is amazed at how cute it is, but still warns Fleta is too vulnerable and is not yet used to this kind of jokes. It is better to slow down a little and then say something to her. Then she will even be able to laugh calmly. The brunette nods, and then is about to continue the conversation. He realized too late that the girls are wearing the same dresses, and in fact, it seems beautiful. Smiling, Sarkin compliments the clothes in response. The blonde slightly lifts her sister and says that of course Fleta will be a cutie in any outfit. The Archduke thinks that they are both beautiful. There is no argument there and immediately catches the elder one's concentrated gaze on himself. She looks at the man skeptically, only to notice later that he is wearing two dark colors today. His shirt, jacket, and trousers are all black without even any light-colored inserts. The brunette stands and says nothing, listening to the squabble developing between the two. The heroine asked to wear something white or multicolored, but of course, no one listened to her. There were some difficulties with this, so there was no choice but to choose from what was available or to refuse the appointed meeting altogether. The little girl asked when they had managed to become so close, and the princess immediately began to object, saying that this had never happened. The Duke lowered his sad eyes, believing that they had become a little closer. He had exactly the same opinion. Evening came. The heroine was too tired, so she sat down on the bed. She could not think that a friend and sister would become so close so quickly. It is immediately clear that they are like a family that has been separated. There is no problem with this, and this is for the best. A persistent knock on the door interrupts your thoughts. You have to get up and open it. The emperor's assistant and several other servants appeared there. They do not care that it is already quite late. A letter was sent to the beauty from His Majesty. He asked to deliver the package personally, and did not forget to mention that they should not return without a response from his daughter, because this is the most important thing. The stern face, more like stone, is transformed with a smile, and now the old man is already explaining that a list of gifts has been prepared for the girl's upcoming birthday. The emperor asks his daughter to choose any of the options presented. One of the points is rooms decorated with gold, as well as magical instruments worthy of attention. You can choose rubies, diamonds, or emeralds, which will be a good addition to the collection. The green-eyed woman sighs angrily. All of this is absolutely not what she would like to receive, so her anger comes out in her head literally in a second. A brilliant plan has formed that can be used for her own purposes. The lady coughs and then shakes her head still. She is not going to refuse. This is not the case when such a thing can be done. The servant smiles and is about to listen because in his memory, this is the first time the beauty has agreed to anything Cézanne wants her father to be told, as if she needs everything written on this list down to the last item, and only then will she finally be happy. The girl is burning with rage, but it is more passive, which makes her feel even more uneasy. Fear howls in every cell of her body. In addition to the whole list, the lady also wants to get Angela Island with Rifle Beach. This point is the most important, and if her father misses it, she will be very sad. It would be nice to go there in the summer to relax from all the worries. His Majesty was given everything in detail. He carefully examines the list with the marked points, thoughtfully rubbing his chin. The servant bows, saying that this is how it was. Usually the princess does not behave like this. Apparently today she decided that she needed to change at least for a moment. The blonde nods his head. It seems he is the only one who understood what is happening, because he calmly says something. In the end, he offers to give the beauty everything, including the island she deserves it. Like no one else, the servants standing nearby freeze with eyes that are ready to climb out of their heads from surprise. What was said seems a little strange. One of the subjects says something about how it seems like this is too much, but immediately falls silent after one icy look from the protagonist, as everyone knows in fact Cézanne does not want silver or gold, just like all the trinkets that she asked her father for on this list. The young man jumps up from his throne and grins from ear to ear, then shouts as if he had achieved victory. His efforts were obviously not in vain, because in the end everything turned out as well as possible. The girl did this because he wanted to receive care from her father. The rest of the room think that the king has finally gone crazy, but he is not going to listen. The girl walks down the corridor, and the maids follow her, who freeze as soon as the heroine says that she began to notice something. For some reason it seems to her that Fleta has been avoiding her since her time, and this will not lead to anything good, because in this case it is only a minus. They were close, but now everything went completely differently than planned. The baby gradually moved away, making simple movements that made one think about what was happening. Perhaps she was going through puberty since she stopped leaving the room and even talking. Perhaps something is bothering the girl because there is no other way to explain it. Walking towards Fleta's chambers, the princess carefully knocks and sees a cute face appear from there. The brunette first asks who it is that has come. The girl is immediately asked what happened, that she has been behaving like this lately. It was all strange from the very beginning. Even this time she continues to say that nothing like that is happening. She likes to play with Flora in the garden, and in fact that is why time is dedicated only to the animal. All this is great, but inside there is an incomprehensible feeling. The lady announces that today she would like to go to the palace to see her brother Luca. Aisha, who is Mel's younger sister, enters the room, and while her friend is away, it is best for her to go straight to her for any requests. As soon as the girl leaves after being wished a pleasant journey, the little girl smiles, saying that she didn't think she would meet someone she knew here. The princess just happened to have someone to help look after the brunette, so she couldn't refuse. The woman really wanted to help. Leaning towards his ear, the lady asks if the child will go to the duke again. He must be careful not to get caught by Cézanne, but the plan has already been thought out. Aisha recalls how sweet the girl usually was. She recently tore off a precious button from her shirt when the maids urgently needed it. The place where the heroine went to sew a doll for the upcoming holiday was not a bedroom, but a castle in the Duchy of Sarkhan, where Darian lives. The little girl is trying to justify herself. The man knows how to carve a horse out of wood. Two different things are completely incompatible. This is something else. At first the maid was a little scared, but when she saw and got to know Fleta better, she realized that she was just an ordinary child who wanted to please her patroness. Gradually, everyone began to change their opinions. The woman wants to help, not the one they talk about in rumors, but the ray of sunshine that smiles at everyone as soon as it sees him. The conversation dragged on a bit, and the two even stopped to finish. They had some work to finish today, so they had to try to do it as quickly as possible. A mocking voice and laughter are heard behind them. The maids say that they know that they heard a squeak similar to Fleta's even earlier, so their doubts have disappeared. The eyes are fixed, somewhere on the floor. Fear is spreading inside the pupils like a sea. These are the same ladies-in-waiting who were with Mrs. Mila and mocked her in the locked room. Aisha is not at a loss. She is trying to protect her mistress. Those who are initially in the princess's palace have no right to be nearby. It would be better for them to simply go their own way. The woman was worried and concerned that the brunette would get even worse, but it seems that she is living happily, forcing the maid to move away. She talks about unfinished business. The feeling of undisguised hatred and fragments of violence pop up in her head over and over again. The little girl covers her ears with her hands so as not to hear those screams from the past. Luca listens to his sister's request. She asked him on her behalf to invite Fleta to the imperial palace for the upcoming event, which will take place soon. Since the child does not have a court status like the rest of them, attending the celebration is only possible if an invitation comes from official representatives. Cézanne knows that if she does everything herself, her father will be against it. Her brother is silent and does not intend to answer, but points his finger forward as if he noticed someone familiar. It seems that Fleta is there. The woman screams, saying that the baby is under the care of the second princess. If the ladies-in-waiting allow themselves to continue insulting, they will be reported. There is no need to shout at the whole palace. After all, getting infected with some kind of curse from a girl is the most terrible thing one could think of. The princess is no longer going to stand somewhere on the sidelines this time. She will not allow insults. She steps forward, ordering to repeat everything that was said. Having ladies-in-waiting with such a character at court is terrible. A man as a prince should be ashamed. One of the maids makes excuses. They were only afraid that the curse would be passed on. The blonde gets even angrier. No one has the right to use such words. They are very rude towards a child who has done nothing wrong. Fleta has long been under the care of her elder sister. If anyone in this castle dares to insult her, they will insult Her Highness in the same way. Each one takes responsibility and must be aware of what awaits her. If she insults someone from the royal family, the lady apologizes again. The maids apologize, but they have to do it in front of Fleta herself. Everyone bows their heads, but the little girl doesn't know what to answer. The prince assures that it's not necessary to answer. Vivian's maids, as usual, distinguish themselves. Of course, I reported this incident to the maid of honor. She must fix the problems. Their salaries will be cut, and they will be put on probation. If something like this happens again, it will only be worse for them. In the future, it will be perceived as a personal insult, and then they will not get off so easily. As soon as the girls have run away, Cézanne kneels down and begs forgiveness from the brunette, who must have been very scared, especially at that moment. Now everything will be fine. There will be a woman nearby who will help with whatever is needed. Aisha is also trying to calm the child after the stress he has experienced. The girl said that she would be in the room all day, but in truth she was going to Sir Darien. They had not seen each other for a long time, although this is generally a lie. The brunette was waiting to spend some time together. The man always says that he and his niece are similar, so it was necessary to be close. It was better not to talk about the doll and keep it a secret. The blonde believed that this was right. Fleta could become a good friend to the hero. The heroine's brother, standing behind, realized that he seemed to have been forgotten, so he came forward saying that he was also lonely and would like the little girl to visit him. Luca doesn't think he said anything too much. Everyone just forgot about him. That's why sadness engulfed his body as soon as he felt something was wrong. Even though Cézanne tries to pretend that she is behaving this way, you can still hear concern for her brother in her voice. Because he is one of the most important people in her life, the girl is about to leave and even calls Aisha to her, but then her friend stops her. She asks her to tell her in the future about everything that happens, especially the bad ones, so that she can protect herself. No matter what anyone says, Fleta will remain the little sister in this case. Everything is exactly as it should be. She can call the woman whatever she wants. The little girl almost forgot that her sister could speak so tenderly, not only to the prince, but also to her, so she screamed in agreement and climbed up to hug him. No matter what anyone says, Fleta will always be there no matter what. They were standing next to each other when the Duke appeared at that moment, apparently coming out to meet them. The little girl decides that it's time to go to the castle, but before that she asks to wait a little and runs to hug Luca, who helped her incredibly. Aisha laid out a lot of different materials on the main table. There is very little time left until the princess's birthday, so it is worth hurrying. The woman quickly explains what and where to sew so that the perfect toys will be ready very soon. They must finish today. Already finishing the work, the Duke decides to ask if something happened to the girl while she was heading to his lands. It seemed that there was a squabble in the garden. The meetings remain a secret for the princess while she tries to understand what is happening. The brunette points to his eyes. They seem to be a little swollen. The heroine probably cried a lot. The man noticed even such a small thing. She was afraid that if she crossed paths with the maids, they would definitely attack her, and she cried from fear, although she did not want this. Now everything is fine, but at the same time it is worth thinking, because something bad can happen without warning. The princess asked to trust her, but still, it would be better if they took the baby to the kingdom of Sraken. The hero asks what his friend is going to do once she finishes with the toy. Since she doesn't know, Darian suggests going on a trip. Erantos Palace is of course beautiful and big, but other countries are also good. It sounds very interesting. It would be nice to go somewhere with the whole group. The most important thing is with Cézanne, who should also be nearby. The man interrupts the flow of thoughts and words. They will go only together, and everyone else will stay at home there. They will be able to try a lot of delicious things. The girl hears how she won't cry there like today, and everything will change. She looks at the cookies and still refuses. It will be easier that way. When something terrible happened, the princess came to the aid of the beauty, doing her a favor in the literal sense when it became really scary. The prince and Aisha also came. The beauty is happy when they are all together, but this is something wrong, completely wrong. Finally, after the conversation, the heroine managed to finish the hair. Fleta has made an excellent toy. The assembled people praise it, and the maid assures that Her Majesty will like it the most because it is for her. It was completely dark outside. Darian didn't notice how evening had come, so he asks to return to the palace of Erantos so that she doesn't worry. They will wait for the upcoming event. Luca has already promised that he will do everything so that Fleta is also on the guest list. For his sister's sake, he is ready to do anything. Today, closer to the middle of the day, the blonde will hand over his tasks to the responsible people, and then the decision will be made for which the maiden thanks. If the heroine wishes happiness to Flete, then they wish happiness to her too. This is something that cannot be taken away. Henceforth, if you need something, it is best to contact immediately, and then everyone will be happy. The lady doesn't like what happened today, but she's afraid that something even worse might happen in the future, and it can't be prevented. The girl will sleep soundly and everything will be fine. A carriage passes by. There is obviously some duke sitting in it because it looks very luxurious. The kids playing in the street are going to go and find out all the details. The two promised to reread it to get into all sorts of trouble, and the father even believed it, which was obviously a lie that was used against him. The kids ask what is happening today, what kind of important day it is. They were told that some important person has a birthday. Smart kids, after all. It is Cézanne's 17th birthday. The servant came to the beauty to tell her that she was invited to a birthday party. Fleta certainly didn't expect this. An invitation from Luca is placed in the girl's hands. She is still not fully awake, so it seems that this is all a stupid dream that will soon end. Aisha is happy for her charge, although she continues to sit with wide eyes. The messenger has long since left to go on other business. The first thing the heroine does is go to her sister. She should have already started preparing, but it didn't work out. Nothing will work out if she doesn't give her a toy first. The brunette thought that she would not see Cézanne on such an important day of her life, but everything was completely different. That's why she was dating her brother. The girl is about to open the door but freezes. Her mother is in the room. She congratulates her daughter, who this time even managed to get ahead of her husband. In her hands is a box containing pearl earrings, which were more expensive than all other jewelry. This was the first thing that the Empress's mother gave her when she was 17 years old. They say that pearls were obtained from southern mollusks. That's why they are so bright. Vivian said that she would give rubies. She likes them the most. The blonde sincerely thanks for the gifts, but then accidentally notices familiar hair appearing in the crack behind the door. She knows who is there. Mother moves forward, not understanding who else came to visit her daughter at such an early hour, thinking that it was the emperor that a catastrophe was near because it was still too early to see each other. There was only Mel standing there quickly greeting Her Majesty. The brunette reminds that it was high time to prepare for the event. Apparently we'll have to start a little later, but it's not entirely clear yet. The blonde understands that time flies very quickly. It would be bad to be late. The little girl ran into her bedroom and fell on her bed. She didn't manage to give her the bunny, so now she is literally ready to burst into tears. Fleta is worried that after the pearls, the girl won't like her toy. Aisha, as usual, assures that everything will be fine. There is no need to worry. In order not to fill your head with something unnecessary, it would be best to start preparing for the moment this will distract you a little from reality. The maid prepared many dresses for trying on, but even after a few, the princess was already exhausted. She didn't want anything anymore. Finally, when the outfit was chosen, it was time to do something with the hair. The baby hears familiar footsteps and the smell of perfume. Cézanne enters the room smiling. She is as always well-dressed. A beautiful crown complements the solemn image, emphasizing elegance. Vivian was informed that Luke had sent another invitation without approval, which even the king himself, who was too busy, had not seen. That girl will be in the hall again. The maid is ordered to find her and bring her to her immediately, so that it becomes clear what's going on. The brunette begins to get scared. The baby is taken care of not only by the second princess, but also by the prince. So problems may arise that no one expected. Vivian does not believe that they are more afraid of them than her. Jane won't do all the work. They will definitely find a second one, someone who will not be connected to her and will do as ordered without delay. The princess is complimented and smiles, also noticing that Fleta looks charming even with such a funny hairstyle that she has never tried before. Luca enters the room, but the Duke is with him. Perhaps they are at the wrong time, but the man cannot say anything, even blushing a little. The blonde doesn't remember inviting the man, but her friend thought that since they were friends with the child, such a gesture would definitely not be superfluous. Darian seemed to be somewhere else because at the same time he couldn't hear, and blushed even more. He arrived after he received that very invitation. The girl was worried that she would have to be with Fleta and try to host the party, but now the brunette will be watching her, so everything is fine. The little girl is very excited, but already in the hall she turns from side to side with eyes the size of balls. She has never seen anything like it. The man warned that nothing terrible would happen, saying that his friend could safely go to the stands ahead of her father. The princess is at an official banquet for the first time and walks forward next to her brother. People around her whisper about her personality and beauty that makes people fall in love. Vivian appeared ahead, interrupting their conversation. Luca walked for a very long time, and she even managed to get a little bored, feeling that she had literally been abandoned alone. Behind you, you can see a blonde guy who says that his sister is as beautiful as always, and the way they constantly leave her is an even bigger mistake. Instead of talking to Arantos, Senior Cézanne looks at the maid standing behind her. She remembers her face and how they were forced to be on probation. Vivian is sorry that everything ended this way, but if there were reasons, nothing can be done. You can't change the rules that were specifically set. They all hope that it will be good. She understands that most likely there is more involved, but at the same time, she is not going to think about anything else. Vivian smiles and says that she has prepared some special gift that will definitely be liked. She spent a long time choosing it and hopes that everything will be liked. Of course, the beauty doesn't say anything. She simply suggests going to their places where mother and father are already waiting. In her past life, the blonde never received a good gift from her sister. She was constantly looking for reasons to ruin everything. This time she has a bad feeling. Virgo always presented dresses that were the wrong size, jewelry that had gone out of fashion and had become completely tasteless, and all that stuff. She didn't care about it. Fleta also looks around the Duke, hopes that the little girl likes the event, and she nods because everything around sparkles, attracting attention. The official part begins. The sister notices Cézanne sitting on the throne. Very soon, the hero of the occasion will be introduced, and the gifts will begin. The adjutant appeared behind him, asking for forgiveness for being a little late. As usual, he doesn't understand how it happened, but that's always the case. The Duke asks for forgiveness, but he will have to leave. He is the representative of Sraken, so he must present the princess with a beautiful gift. A young man standing nearby will keep an eye on Fleta. The bunny will not be handed over, yet this will only happen the next day. Crayon smiles. Even though he doesn't seem like a reliable person, that doesn't mean he really isn't. The baby wanted to be close to the man, but there might be problems if she clings to him, so she agrees nothing will happen. The celebration continues, and then ambassadors from the Kingdom of Fiorin are called to congratulate the princess, who also brought gifts. On behalf of the kingdom, the ambassador wants to present these jewels, folded in a box, where there is also a sword. The girl thanks for such a warm congratulation. She hopes for further prosperity of relations between the kingdom and Erantos. In fact, the heroine is incredibly bored. She does not understand how much longer the official part will last, but she is already gradually feeling bad. All gifts ultimately carry nothing in themselves except the elevation of the emperor's status as the father and ruler of a great empire. Thoughts are only about Fleta, whom I want to see as soon as possible, but again, there is no time for this. Next in line is Sraken, which makes me perk up. The Archduke decided to congratulate her personally, but he should not have done this, but should have been next to his sister to protect her from all the extra eyes at the banquet. The gifts are the same, no matter what the person gives. Their attention is still attracted. The girl sees a beautiful book on the tray, and of course, it is The Snow Devil. When they first met, the lady was looking for a publication. She will probably be presented with many more expensive gifts, but variety is still the best. It's not that the lady was touched by the gift, but you have to thank her so as not to seem too angry. She clearly wanted to add something else. It seems that the blonde is worried that her friend was left all alone, which is not at all what she deserved as a person representing Sraken's interests. Darian could not stand aside and hopes that he will be understood. For the first time, the man's inability to understand the feelings and emotions of others makes him think that the duchy and the empire will remain loyal allies as before. There are a lot of thoughts of people around who are not the best. They all gossip about the guy, thinking that he takes on too much, even though he is a high-ranking person. This is not the first time this happens. It is better to ignore. He decides to say goodbye, but then he hears someone looking for black hair. The lady said that she only needed a girl, but he couldn't believe that everything was so complicated. The hero turned around trying to understand whose thoughts these were. There is no one with dark hair and eyes in this hall except the Duke and Fleta. It seems that someone is trying to track down the girl. This is not good. The little girl was bored at the end of the hall when a beautiful woman approached her with a smile. If the child was bored, she wouldn't mind sitting down next to him. There were 2 new members in the hall. Prince Benyu and his son. His studies at the academy were completed, so he was able to return to the empire in time. The brunette listens to the conversation but is distracted by the small child. Her hair color is very rare. This happens once in 100 people. Apparently she is the only one. It is not clear where the baby came from, but it is definitely some distant country. A figure of a girl runs ahead. Her face does not express anything good. Creon didn't notice anything strange about the stranger and smiled after she was given the go-ahead. The woman immediately sat down next to him and started a conversation. Throwing questions one after another, the brunette cannot decide what she likes the most because the last one is directed at a beautiful dress. The little girl sat alone all this time, but she was not ill. As it turned out, she was 9 years old, but she had no idea where her parents were since she had never seen them. Normally, Fleta would have said the name Erantos, but now she doesn't know. The man is interfering. The little girl came here with Duke Darian. The woman inside is worried. She didn't think that the child was with Killian, and she is no longer sure that no unnecessary problems will arise. In any case, Sraken is a small duchy, and she is only following orders, and in her hands is a plate of pasta, a sweet dessert. The child has nothing in return, but she is still going to try, at which point the prince approaches them and asks them to slow down a little. The hero apologizes for such an intrusion, but is going to clarify whether he is close with this lady sitting next to him on the couch. They just met, but she is already friendly. If they haven't met before, then it's better not to try the dessert she presented. It won't lead to anything good. As it turned out, there was no dessert on the menu. For the celebration, the woman was indignant. She had prepared the delicacies herself to please. There must be a reason to bring something from home. The heroine is asked what kind of family she is from, and she remembers how the maid told her about the task. She proudly raises her head, declaring that she is from the Candace family. Liam smirks. It seems the lady doesn't know anything. His father was once a commander of military regiments, so he knows a lot about noble families. The man glares at the heroine. His voice rises so people around him even start turning around to understand what is happening. This is probably the last time, but the man wants to know what kind of family this stranger is from and why she needed to approach the young lady. The Duke approached Fleta to check her condition. The princess cannot sit still. She also looks into the end of the hall. She becomes scared. The woman falls to her knees and begs for forgiveness. She was only following orders. She had to give up the dessert in order to get a lot of money in return. Panic and confusion were evident in every thought and word, so it was not difficult for the brunette to guess that all this was the truth, as it was. Someone else is guilty, but here neither the name nor the information nor anything else is being disseminated. Everything is covered by something hidden. Benyu steps forward, guessing that the brunette is the girl's guardian, and says that when the commotion started, that girl approached them. In the bag, Liam holds out the cake to check what was inside. Darian wants to talk to the lady, but it seems that this will not end well. It will be a little difficult. During the imperial banquet, an unpleasant event occurred. The culprit will be immediately taken away by the imperial knights. She will be sent to the cell. Killian does not give up, but he is cut down. The young man wants to know what kind of relationship the Duke has with the young beauty whom they tried to feed. At the request of the first princess, this man serves as the baby's escort. The prince has already realized that they have no direct connection, only friendship. Now in this palace, everyone is congratulating the second princess on her name day. You need to be careful. If the excitement suddenly increases, then both the girl and the emperor will be extremely agitated. This must not be allowed under any circumstances in order to save their lives. Liam's comments were quite harsh. It was clear that these were just attempts to protect a young lady who deserved better, but Sraken really shouldn't interfere. The lady is related to Darian, and as is already clear, it is not very pleasant to see a child who is almost a member of the family get into such a difficult situation. The young man hopes that Arantos, who has great power and is known for his legality, will take the necessary measures against the culprit. It was all over, but the thoughts in Fleta's head remained. She couldn't believe that the smiles and feelings were a lie just to get closer to her. The little girl thought that they would be able to become friends because of the care of her sister, and the Duke, the brunette, sometimes behaves like a fool. She thinks that no one will ever be friends with her at this rate. There is some truth in this. Darian comes closer and hugs his niece, asking for forgiveness. The child is simply friendly, so she trusts everyone, but of course this is not her fault. As an apology for the next tea party, the brunette will prepare the most delicious desserts. The conversation is interrupted by a blonde who hurries closer. She examines the baby and asks if everything is okay, hoping that she was not hurt. Darian watches carefully, but then quietly turns to the princess. He would like to convey that a sleeping pill was found in that sweet. There was nothing else in the pasta except medicine. It's good that Fleta abstained. Otherwise, something irreparable could have happened. It's scary to even think about it. In such a crowded place, you can also suspect someone. No doubt the lady has already figured out what's what and won't think about it. Vivian is the first one who could do such a thing. The blonde yells at the maid. She can't understand how she could fail such an easy task just because of some prince. One problem after another arises, Suzanne, and the damned girl will still pay because the lady will definitely not leave all this just like that. The official part had just ended, and the sisters had already run off in different directions, leaving their brother completely alone, pretending that this was normal. What had happened during the day must have affected Fleta greatly, and she realized that this was not good. It would be good to go to the palace in order to rest a little. The little girl still wants to be near her sister. She will be bored alone. They can go for a walk right after the end of the ball. Typically, during this type of event, guys and girls dance holding hands and feeling as if their bodies are merging with each other in the rhythm of life. Of course, the brunette assumed that the lady would dance with the Duke, but as it turned out, she was not at all interested in dancing, and as soon as she became freer, she would immediately return. In order to protect the lady from similar situations that happened earlier, the man promises that he will stay by her side to protect her from adversity. Fleta was dejected. No one could understand the reason she did not want to dance, but would like to watch Cézanne spinning with Darian. The woman can't resist the expression on her face. She is saved by Luca, who rushes to his sister to tell her something. He has interesting news. His Highness is greeted, but he waves them away. He has brought with him the prince, who smiles and greets the princess and those gathered. They hadn't seen Sir Liam for a very long time. The girl had changed beyond recognition, just like Benyu Jr. The last meeting was, indeed, a long time ago. 8 years have passed. Perhaps it is time to return to the capital. The brunette is already planning to officially join the Night Corps, so they will meet again. It was time to introduce Fleta, but she, jumping up and down, said that they had already met twice, and it turned out that he had come and pushed that girl away. After listening to the story, the blonde drooped a little, but thanked the man for his help. He couldn't help but intervene, so she just smiled pleasantly. If the princess doesn't mind, instead of gratitude, it would be better to go to a dance together, just one, but it will mean a lot to both of them. The green-eyed girl doesn't understand what's going on. Luca, who is nearby, is a little angry because he wanted to be the first and brought his friend just to greet him. Fleta is so eager that it is impossible to restrain herself. Bowing her head, the princess agrees to proceed with her plan and not hesitate for a second. At the Benyu Academy, it seems like he hasn't even forgotten how to dance, which can be considered a real stroke of luck. They extend their hands to each other. Liam is no longer around, so the prince begins to complain about how he accidentally missed his chance, which even makes him a little sad. The hero himself says all this skeptically, but Darian's face frightened him. It was different from his usual expression. It seems that the dance has come to an end. The brunette jumps up and down, begging the Duke to dance with Cézanne at least once for the complete happiness of both parties. The man refuses without even thinking. The dancing in Sraken is very different from Orantos and its traditions. This leaves no choice at all. If the princess dances with a man, she will not avoid trouble. She came at the most opportune moment and heard a fragment of what was said. A friend asked if a young man would dance with Cézanne, and he refused. She can't help but laugh. It sounds cute enough, so the reaction is logical anyway. It would be good if they were still together. The blonde is not able to refuse because she is in a good mood, which spreads to everyone. The lady extended her hand to be honored and danced, but for some reason, even after a minute, the man just stared ahead silently. The song will soon end. You will have to hurry a little, putting your hand on your shoulder and on your waist. The girl smiles because she showed you how it should be done correctly. If they continue to stand still, no one will realize that the couple is dancing. But as they speed up, they make everyone look around, and Fleta light up with joy. Liam, who had been standing nearby all this time, decides to ask a fatal question. He wants to know what kind of relationship the princess and the Duke have. Darian stayed in the palace only for the sake of negotiations between the empire and his country, and at the banquet only for formalities. The two barely know each other and have nothing in common. What was said earlier seems less and less true with each new movement. The brunette's face is too close. The girl becomes somehow uneasy. She turns away, but immediately hears a question asking whether her companion made any mistake. Everything is fine. It would be better to continue. It is immediately obvious from the man that he has never danced before. His movements are very rigid. His steps are like sharp knives that plunge into the enemy. Such people are usually much better at holding a sword in their hands, which seems to cut through the air with such sharp movements. You can see that the man is learning quite quickly, although sometimes he continues to step on your toes, making you feel bad all the time. It's a pity that the hero was unable to live up to the beauty's expectations, but in any case, that's how it turned out, and he definitely has something else to say. After spending so much time in Orantos, the hero realized how different they were from the dances they danced to the people themselves and what they were like. The hero does not try to say something that will make the heart flutter, but it turns out on the contrary, Srakan wants to take Fleta with him. The girl is worried she doesn't understand if this is true, not a dream, and this will happen faster than it seems. You need to understand that the emperor will not agree to this. There is no good reason to take the baby to another country to grow up there. The Duke thinks differently in this place. She will never be recognized as a princess. While the heroine is in Arantos, such an incident as happened before may happen again, causing more damage. They had an alliance, and the hero said that he would be on the lady's side, but it seems he simply lied. He objects because it is because of the agreement that he is going to help. Virgo sits in the silence of the room, but that same conversation still remains in her head. She asks for forgiveness for what happened, but it would be best to leave this topic for later. The little sister was tired. It was more of a mental fatigue and pain. She herself did not notice how Fleta quietly asked what happened. To divert suspicion, the heroine asks how the event went. The little girl liked everything. The hall was beautiful and the food was delicious, just like the songs Too Beautiful. What she enjoyed most was the time spent with her sister, with whom the little girl is literally in love. They will always be number one for each other. If Darian takes the brunette with him, she will see a much better future. Because becoming part of the Arantos family will not be easy, the lady would really like the child to stay with them. Maybe the blonde is too greedy but does not want to admit it, but she really wants to continue spending time with her because it is important. It's time to go to bed, but the child is mumbling something. Of course she wants to sleep next to her, but the main reason for stopping is the gift that she still hasn't given. The thing is not as good as the others, and perhaps not as beautiful and useful, but it is still made from the heart. The woman asks, not to worry, she will like it in any case. Getting up from her seat, the girl comes back as soon as she takes out a doll made in neat flowers from the cabinet. The girl sincerely wanted the rabbit that the heroine once gave her to have a friend. He is very handsome, but he will remain lonely without his friend. Together with the Duke and Aisha, she tried to do everything as best as possible, but her sister couldn't hold back. Tears were streaming from her eyes. Fleta is worried and says that she didn't want to offend anyone. Everything is fine. The woman just likes everything very much. She didn't even think that the young rabbit would need a friend. Of all the gifts the beauty received today, the one the beauty gave her is the one she likes the most. It is too cute. The next morning, the woman stood near the door and asked the Duke what he had forgotten in the estate. He also had a hair in his hands, but only a black one. Arantos Jr. appeared ahead. Apparently his friend had appeared on time. They had made his toy together when they were working on it in the castle. First, the brunette enters the room and they sit silently opposite each other. The little girl, like the maid, feels like something happened yesterday. It made her change. They may have already had a fight after dancing, but no matter what, it would be better not to interfere so as not to get into trouble. The girl sincerely thanks for the gift but understands that they came not only for this reason. There is something else here that has not yet been revealed. The man wants to apologize even though everything worked out, but he knows that he had no right to leave Fleta completely alone, completely unprotected. He momentarily lost his patience and endurance. The blonde assures that there is nothing to apologize for. If the child had gone with him, then such incidents would definitely not have happened. However, the heroine has already made a promise to her sister that she will become a member of the Arantos family. If she leaves, it is not clear when she will be able to see her again. She does not want to part with her. The hero quietly says something in agreement, which does not even help to understand everything from the very beginning. The lady does not understand, but the Duke did not say that he trusts from the very beginning. In fact, the man asked Fleta her opinion on this matter in advance in order to be 100% sure. He just wanted to understand more. The princess became sad. She realized that the girl wanted to leave, but no, she gave the same answer as her sister. She did not want to leave the castle. The baby is already old enough to understand what a blow this will be for the woman, and therefore will take care of her well-being until the very end. There is only one condition that must be met. The lady must become so strong that no one can break her and her will to move forward. Of course, it will be difficult to protect your family alone, but then Sraken promises that he will try to help as much as possible. If all this is for the sake of protecting Fleta, the woman is ready to do anything. She must be happy and know what warmth and care are not only from her. The brunette comes out with books that turn out to be too heavy. One of the maids asks if she needs help and almost immediately takes the things for herself. My sister went to the library today too. Now it has become something she does almost on a daily basis because things can't wait. Learning to write is very interesting. It is impossible to tear yourself away next time the heroine will go there with Aisha and Mel so that they can help. After the conversation, they sat down at the table to start drinking tea. The next dessert literally melted in the mouth, making you smile because it was all too delicious. After the birthday, the child behaved calmly and there were no special changes. Everything was fine until the heroine noticed something terrible. Grabbing her hand, the woman freezes in horror, because there is a stigma there in the form of a dark inverted triangle. This is not associated with the forces of light. It seems that the dark forces have begun to awaken because usually the mark is round in color and has a bright yellow light that glows. The girl does not remember when the icon appeared. Sometimes it appears in the morning and sometimes it disappears. Pain and anxiety seem to be absent. Of course, everything is not that bad, but sometimes she dreams about something bad in the darkness. Something calls the baby and tries to make her come closer. The action started even faster than expected. Unfortunately, we can't expect anything else, but the reason is unknown. Perhaps there is a way to weaken the forces. A great idea comes to mind because the blonde smiles sharply, suggesting to go to the city. The princess put on a wig to disguise herself, and she asked Mel to keep her distance so as not to be seen by anyone and not to cause problems. The little girl no longer wants to wait for the conversation to end. Her eyes shine with a light that makes her smile. She sees many shops that interest her. The heroine asks where the beauty wants to go. First, of course, they will go to all the places that will be on the list. First, the duo went to the market and then to the fountain in order to end up near the temple. People are praying. The bell tower is placed in the direction of the temple. If there is still interest, they will even be able to look inside. They went out into the city just for this, but the heroine does not even suspect. The brunette doesn't know why she didn't think of it right away, although she should have. If the problem is in the power of darkness, it needs to be checked and cleaned immediately. Lord Rowell's temple was built in the same place where priests practice celestial magic of healing and purification. Surely in such a place there will be at least one way to cleanse Fleta and make her finally be a happy child without problems. The high priest is called to prepare for the morning mass, but it seems he will miss it. He senses that special guests are coming to them. Cryon looks at the temple. He does not understand why the two went there, perhaps to pray. The Duke denies the Emperor's family never contacted them. The place where the friends went is not so dangerous, but Luca came with a request to follow their future movements forward. The blonde is simply afraid to let them go, but because of his subordination, he cannot move calmly, although he would like to go there completely alone. After all, Sraken is very close to the princess and Fleta, so surveillance is unlikely to hurt if you stay somewhere on the sidelines and don't interfere. In any case, Cézanne tried because she changed her appearance beyond recognition. The Duke does not agree again because despite all the changes, he could not help but guess who is in front of him. The little girl doesn't understand why they are going to the temple itself. She said that she had bad dreams, but she didn't think that someone would pay such special attention to this. Priests will use magic to help get rid of everything terrible, so good people will not leave you in trouble. You can be happy about that. In the distance, people gathered who were praying, but they came here for another reason. One of the men points forward. They are already expected. There were many beautiful bright butterflies inside. Lord Rowell was looking forward to the visit and understood that it would of course even take a little longer. The hero himself who appeared before them is Ark. He is a servant of God. So far all that has been said is just that and nothing more. It's still difficult to carry on a conversation when there are so many ears around listening to every word, and you'll have to understand the need to change the meeting place. They recognized the little sister immediately and understood what they would have to do with her. They had already managed to report everything to Rowell in full detail. The high priest knew that they would come and also understood for what reason, but he could not explain it because it was all too confusing. The forces around the princess began to develop, and time began to change. The heroine must know that she has started a difficult game. It will not be easy for her to reach the end. God created destiny for everyone to follow, and trying to change it is like trying to change the direction of a typhoon with the flapping of a butterfly's wings. A fragment pops into my head how Fleta hugged her sister and asked her to look at her in the future when they meet again and are close. Virgo cannot give up just because it seems impossible to everyone. This layout does not suit her, so everything will work out as best as possible, no doubt about it. Fleta will definitely get on the right path if someone helps her and she deserves it. Cezanne speaks as if she herself sees the future. The blonde hoped that this is exactly what would be said, so he promises that he will do everything he can to help break through. Ark touches the miss with his hand. He heard that she has been suffering from nightmares lately. He asks to allow him to cure her of all those horrors. To begin with, the hero will get into her head, and if it is scary or uncomfortable, it is best to say so right away so that there are no misunderstandings. The girl found herself in the dark. She was not in pain or afraid, but her feelings were not analyzed. She did not know how long she would have to stay with her eyes closed. For some reason, no one answers, although the ritual should have already ended. Real horror is reflected in the eyes, because in front of the heroine stands herself, or rather, a reflection. The little girl tries to figure out where she is and asks how to get back to the temple, but in response, she only hears fitful laughter that spreads around. The unknown girl calls the lady to follow her so that she goes somewhere deep into her consciousness. There are terrible sounds and screams around which make her shrink in half. They head back to the very beginning when Vivian gave the baby candy and then decided to accuse her of stealing it from her table. At that time, the beauty was mocked by other maids. They said that they would curse her if she dared to come closer, and they touched her only for study like a wild animal. Each time, each person did not forget to wish that the child had never been born, and that she would die sooner. They did not care what was going on inside her soul. There are many identical figures around. It's good that the beauty came right now because there are many different people outside who only hurt the heart. From now on, the beauty does not want to be in constant pain. She wants to be happy and is ready to forget everything when she hears a voice that is still breaking through, which is painfully familiar. Cezanne calls her sister and does not want her to disappear to be left completely alone, although she does not realize it. But the woman was always there to cheer her up. Fleta begs her to let go. She will not stay with her or do something terrible. She wants to go back to be with the people who value her life. The brunette already knows that what happened before was unfair. She did nothing wrong, but in return, she was beaten and mocked for her existence. This figure is Fleta, so she wonderfully understands her suffering. But this is not true because her sister will always be nearby, as well as Aisha, the Duke, and the Prince. The screams are spreading throughout the entire consciousness. The child is just playing the fool. There is no person in the world who truly loves her. There is no argument there. The woman continues to live in the illusion of oblivion, and everything else she must understand that the inner voice will always be there to strangle. The baby screams that she is in pain and begins to toss and turn. A dark atmosphere thickens around her, saturated with the poisons of the basilisk which is in the mind. Arka throws him aside. He tried to stand until the last, but even that didn't work out for him. Everything seems too complicated. He orders not to come closer. The princess must stay away. The forces of darkness are too strong. They cannot be defeated if this is really the case. Then it was not even worth starting, so she will go forward. The brunette had already decided that she was ready to do anything for Fleta, and she was suffering, so standing aside and watching would be the worst possible scenario. Making her way inside, the beauty puts her palms on her cheeks and asks for forgiveness. She didn't think that she would be so hurt and scared. The woman sincerely promises that she will not leave the baby alone, will always be there, and will try to improve her life with her presence. For the sake of her sister, she is ready to wallow in darkness. She no longer cares how badly it might end in her head. There is only one thought about salvation. Cezanne has launched many butterflies that help the child understand that she is not alone. A copy of the heroine screams with anger in her head, asking why she is trying to leave again. It was the heroine who first came to the unknown place and found them all. She must understand what exactly she did. The girl was incredibly tired of constantly waiting for something. The baby should not get dirty in such sweet speeches and forget about those who will be with her until the very end. Unfortunately, nothing will change even after time, no matter how hard she tries to escape. Fleta woke up. She was mumbling something indistinctly and heard her sister asking if everything was okay. Her face expressed real concern. Nothing hurts, and it seems that everything will really be fine. There will be no need to worry so much. Ark asks for forgiveness for the fact that his strength was not enough to finish what he started. Having seen in his dreams everything that Fleta was experiencing, he himself felt great pain. Such feelings are incomprehensible, and this is like the first step towards purification. The scars are much bigger than originally expected. It seems there will be some problems with the ceremony, that's clear. In the end, the priest's attempt was unsuccessful, but if Cézanne had been there instead, everything would be a little different now, much better. The princess probably knows herself that in the great power of light, there are sacred charms that are different. They are like something special. Now it became clear that to save from the forces of darkness, it is not Arc who is needed, but the second future empress. She will be able to find a way to help to the fullest extent. Sure, the beauty has great strength, but it may not be enough to do the best without training. We can only hope that it will become a real salvation. Arc promises that he will tell the mystery of the purification ceremony that they conduct within the walls of the temple so that preparations can begin. Every time before going to bed, the woman will be obliged to perform the ritual together with her sister, and although the effect is not so noticeable after a while, it will manifest itself 100%. Mel's voice is heard outside. The duo is already heading for the exit, but it seems the woman is arguing with someone about whether it is possible to go inside. It seems they've finished everything, so there's no need to guard the entrance anymore. There's a duke standing near the temple who seemed to come out of nowhere. The baby doesn't feel anything at all. Her body is too weak, and she has to hold on to her sister, saying that things have gotten really bad. Mel will go to the carriage with his ward, while the blonde will talk to His Majesty. They have a few unfinished business. The heroine asks how Sarkin knew about their location. Of course, he does not mention the prince's request, so he simply brushes it off easily. It is worth explaining everything. When the young man approached the temple, quite a lot of time had already passed. He realized that the duo were not going to come out for a long time. It was worth starting with the most important thing. The reason they came to the city is because the girl must undergo a purification ceremony. Because of what happened, the baby is feeling so bad. Darian doesn't understand whether it was worth making her suffer like that. What she said will sound strange, but the woman asks to listen. The entire Irantos family has been permeated since time immemorial with only warm light energy. This force is the main weapon of the Empire's army. Since the man agreed to help, I'll have to overcome myself and try to tell him that Fleta unfortunately didn't inherit that same energy. The brunette is not sure that this is true. She is still a child. Everything cannot be known in detail. He is forced to remain silent. She has inherited the power of darkness. This kind of thing only happens in books. The baby was cursed. It seems that this was the main point of conflict during that ceremony. The man still does not believe everything should be different. Darkness or light awakens before adulthood, and only once in a lifetime a person meets a familiar connected to him directly. Having also inherited such an opportunity, the heroine linked herself with a dark familiar called Basilisk, and this is the whole problem. Darian listens. There are too many holes in the princess's explanation, but she sounds convincing and she looks like she's scared to death. In the end, her experiences are understandable, but for some reason there is a certainty that nothing is known about the future, yet it is worth slowing down. If a girl is born with such power, she can learn not to control. In this case, does not work. She is already marked with the stigma of darkness, not light. The very force that the little girl is already fighting against is beyond even the princess's power. She cannot understand, but it is much more powerful and destructive than anyone imagines. According to Arantos, Fleta's familiar could cause irreparable damage to the Empire, which would then be impossible to repair unless the beginning of the end was prevented, and damage would be inflicted on much larger territories than just the Empire. The girl said a lot to the Duke because she thought it was necessary, but it doesn't seem like he understood everything that was needed. He stands there in thought. If the heroine were in Srakane's place, she would also find it hard to believe, but she can't say that she came from the future. For some reason, her soul is too sad. The next morning, Fleta woke up in bed and calmly rubbed her eyes. In fact, she felt much better than in the temple. The condition was not as terrible. The baby slept so soundly, as if she had counted all the sheep for the future. It even sounds funny. But in any case, it is true, which means she will get better. Evening came. The princess carefully went out into the corridor where she ran into her father's servant who had arrived on some important business. They wanted to see the girl, so she goes to the emperor's office where someone is already there. There is a quarrel inside. A voice screams that the girl lied, it wasn't her. The blonde was just waiting for Vivian to do something again. She dared to cause a stir at a state holiday dedicated to Cézanne's birthday. The woman was told that they didn't want to see her anymore, so they threw her out the door where she ran into her sister. She already knows that the one who was involved in that incident was Vivian. It was the first time the girl had heard her father get angry at his daughter. Usually, he was more reserved. One would like to hope that there was not always something wrong in their relationship. Appearing in the room, the lady quietly calls out to the man who turns with a fierce, glaring gaze. The guy's face immediately changes and he smiles. He had already managed to wait for the beauty and could not understand when she would arrive. She was as wonderful as always. She was called for the same reason as before. They had already discussed gifts, but it was time to do it one more time. The transfer of rights to the island was completed. Carl promised that he would give everything that the little girl asked for and hoped that now her mood had improved. The man who is called Cézanne's older brother lacks ambition, and the older sister is greedy for death because that's how she grew up. Of all the children a father has, he can only believe and rely on the youngest because he knows that she will never let him down. During magic lessons, the lady shows herself more and more, for this one can only praise her from the heart. If she needs something for her studies, you can immediately say, I already want to ask her to stop and not to praise her anymore, but then a simply brilliant idea comes to mind on how to get materials. The blonde wants to know if there are any materials somewhere that could help to study the topic of familiars in more detail. It seems that there are not enough books in the library. Inside the estate, there is basic and most uninteresting information that the baby has already studied. She is interested in something more. The blonde already understood that there was interest in this topic, but he did not imagine what could have contributed to its development so much. He didn't refuse, which means there are many more books on this topic than in the library. Blushing slightly, the girl says that she wants to be as strong as her father. Since the desire to get a familiar develops as early as possible, everything will be fine. She begs for gifts, much better than then with the island. Be it old or new editions, the daughter will see them all with the help of the power of light. Some huge secret door appears in front of them. The gate to the secret library, which only the emperor has access to, appeared right here since he started the process. You can't enter, but you can take a quick look. Someday the girl will enter inside with full rights, and then everything will end well. There is probably something about the basilisk, so it will be a huge help. The beauty took a lot of books and went to her office. It was already dark outside and she had no strength left. She fell asleep on the table completely by accident. At night, a strange man with amber eyes brought a book, but the lady did not even notice in the morning. She checked the girl's hand, noticing that the mark had disappeared. There were no nightmares today, but the little girl feels like her sister didn't sleep very well. Unlike her, there are huge dark circles under her eyes. The beauty smiles shyly. She pretends that she doesn't see any problem and that everything ended well as it should. Mal is angry at the princess for behaving like that and reading books until the middle of the night, which eventually led to her falling asleep right on the table, and she was scared when she showed up back in the morning. Something similar had happened before Her Majesty had fallen ill and promised not to do anything, but she repeated the same thing again. Fleta was just as worried as Mel, but unfortunately the beauty couldn't come back. She had important business. She was studying books from the library in an attempt to find secrets. The blonde is not worried. She thinks that everything is more or less over, but she still has some things to do, so she won't be able to be with her sister again. The brunette, as the kindest person, promises that she will wait in her chambers, together with Aisha and Flora, thus doing everything as it should be. Deciding to joke, the heroine asks if they can continue to walk separately. All this is no longer funny at all. Only today they will not play, but then they will. The maid reported that rumors had spread that Prince Benyu was about to graduate from the academy and was planning to join the ranks of the Imperial Knights, although this was no longer news. Then on her birthday, the beauty saw an old friend, and they even talked a little, which made her realize that joy still exists. The maiden did not know that he would become a knight and had already made up his mind, but she was glad that a young sword master would appear in the corps and the prince would have a new opponent. While they were talking, it was time for breakfast time to go to the dining room to eat, but it seemed like the little sister wouldn't be around. The virgin refuses. She agrees to have breakfast only with Fleta, and only in the room where they are, the maid promises to pass everything to the kitchen to prepare. The girl will feed Flora and immediately return back while she ran away. The heroine went to her office to find a black diary there, which it seems she did not take. In Erantos, as usual, it's pouring rain, but the man doesn't know what's going on. The Duke is sitting by the window and pondering what's happening. Cryon hopes that after talking with the princess, it became a little easier, but in any case, the expression on the gentleman's face does not change, so he cannot say for sure. Surely the heroine scolded her friend for following her around and not letting her be with her sister in peace. This is already too obvious. After what was said, the girl's head still hurts. Erantos is such a powerful empire that even if the neighboring kingdoms unite, it will not fall. It is hard to believe that the power described by the girl even exists. Such horror cannot be stored inside the daughter of the elder sister. In any case, it is absurd despite everything. The princess's strange reaction is even a little disturbing. First of all, I want to know what the blonde's expression meant. Was she upset that they didn't believe her, or was there something else? For the first time, the hero cannot read the emotions that are hidden inside that story. Really makes you think, but not about what is hidden inside. The man exhales. He should calm down a little. He says that it is time to go to the young lady's palace. They have something to discuss. It is clear that only through a personal conversation will they be able to discuss everything that is necessary, but he still does not suspect what Cézanne has discovered in her office. The pages depict a snake called the basilisk, a dark familiar that takes the form of a monster the size of a castle. The animal dismantles all magical barriers, and its hard steel scales are invulnerable. Even to the sharpest swords and knives, the information was finally found. Soul Servant is known to be divided into different levels depending on strength, with Vivian's sister Leon and Luca's brother Icarus not being as strong. They are known to be 3rd and 4th level familiars, and Cherion is his father's lion, much stronger, which is why he has a 5th level of magic. Elan, the main character's golden dragon, whom she will summon very soon, is level 6 and is also the strongest of all existing ones. The woman is scared because Vasilisa is on the 7th level. She is surprised that the dark ones have their own levels, but she didn't think that someone stronger than her familiar even existed. Even if the dragon had protected that time, it would have been extremely difficult for him to cope. The book suddenly flies into the air, gathering energy around itself that makes one wonder. The voice is quiet, but it makes you shudder when the world meets its end. All fools will turn to stone before the basilisk, threatening all living things. The lady had heard something like this before, and the ominous energy made her think that it was true, that it was definitely the power of darkness that was attracting people to itself. All this time the book carried magic in itself. Darkness and light are like the sides of a coin. One, this is the real truth. Light in darkness, darkness in light will gather. The blonde strains, but cannot remember this voice which is painfully familiar. There was nothing like it in the publications she took from her father. For some reason the timbre resembles the hiss of a snake, and this clearly makes one feel uneasy. That's for sure. The lady shudders because she doesn't know how to react. She tries to pierce the inside with her sword of light. It is worth hating and cursing those who call upon the basilisk. He will fall under the righteous judgment which will end in only one true outcome. Tom suddenly fell silent, no longer giving any signs. Cézanne still did not understand who he was to use such a dangerous creature. The author is the magician Cadell. This is also something very familiar, almost painfully, so the maiden could assume, but did not even think that this is what will awaken Fleta. There is no word inside about how exactly one can stop the absorption of darkness. It is like a real riddle that no one is destined to solve. The heroine hopes that the person who became the author will be able to help her if only she can find him in time. Someone suddenly knocks on the door. In my opinion, there is not even one person there, but several. Cries are heard, asking if everything is all right. But the maid says that Miss Fleta fainted during what was happening outside the door. Cézanne runs out, and now she is asking questions while Luca asks if she is okay. The Duke is there, and he also looks worried. Thoughts full of doubts are in the air, but for some reason they come straight from the princess's palace. It's strange. The Duke almost broke down the door when he ran to the girl and she just waves him off. It's not nice. The brunette got wet in the rain for this reason too, but he is glad that the girl is completely fine. The man was told that the heroine had been in the room for more than a day. No matter who called, she did not come out as if she had not heard. Just recently, an ominous energy began to ooze from the door. The lady does not believe it. She only looked through a few pages. Fleta is also okay now she woke up, and Aisha is looking after her to make sure everything is okay. Luca understands that his sister is worried, but it's better not to rush forward to visit the baby. It's completely wrong. The lady does not understand what she has awakened and is worried. She asked if they told the emperor, but no, only the brother knows. From now on, if something happens, only Luca is allowed to speak, and father, last of all, it is better not to disturb him. What happened earlier will seem unreal, but the man asks to tell no matter how it goes. They will definitely try to understand because they don't want the beauty to face all this alone. She deserves better. It turned out that the maiden still possesses evil powers, and perhaps this can be cancelled by improving the condition. Today's surge happened precisely because of the study of materials. That's true. While studying the information, Cézanne fell asleep, and a book she had never seen before appeared on the table. The pages were written about the basilisk. Perhaps this is already a higher level that exists. The heroine thought she had spent only 3 minutes there, but it turned out that half a day had passed in the dark. It would be better if the book were disposed of. The prince asks to look at it in person, but one must remain careful. The blonde runs into the office and looks worriedly at the table. There is nothing there, as if it had never been there. The publication, which initially did not exist, simply disappeared and then returned, which makes it even more surprising. Whoever the author is, he has incredible magic. Nothing more is known about it. It seems so. On the last page was written a name, the magician Cadell. Obviously it was he who started all this. If this man planted the book, there was something to discuss because he was the great sage of the kingdom. Long ago, a great sage was revered by the inhabitants of the kingdom, but he became interested in the wrong magic, and becoming a dark image fled. Many people know this name, but for some reason they remember that these are just fairy tales that do not deserve attention. Everyone knows that the basis of magic is light, but black power originates from other objects. If the story is not just a fairy tale, then the basis of dark magic is precisely the darkness that originates from that world. Learning about Cadell and his powers could be a start to helping Fleta so they can figure out what to do. It may sound strange, but both today and before Cézanne saw realities, and these are not just fairy tales. Even if the probability is small, it is worth studying all the details. There is no chance of error. Strachan himself began the story, but studying magic with small sources is almost impossible. If a man says so, he will still participate. He is one of those who can be freely trusted. The brunette admits honestly that he came because he couldn't believe what his friend was saying on that balcony. After he learned that Fleta was not recognized as a princess, anger arose inside him towards the Arantos family. The words regarding the dark forces turned against Cézanne. Darian thought that she was the same as the others. It seems that now the hero thinks differently. Considering everything she said, he understands that Arantos cares about the baby more than anyone else. Even after going to the temple and all the materials, nothing changes the fact that the young man doubts his girlfriend. The brunette cannot say that he is ready to help 100%, but he knows that he has begun to trust with his soul. The young man sincerely cares about the girl. It would be hard to believe that she has the powers that can destroy the world. The lady had not prepared for the conversation that day, but she told the story because she thought she would be believed. Now the situation has at least changed a little, and this can be considered a relative victory. Even though the lady said it was a little dangerous, the man eventually saw evidence of dark magic. Of course, it is no longer difficult to believe in reality, so Cézanne should not undertake such difficult tasks alone. Seeing a bright splash of darkness near the princess's window, the Duke was seriously scared. The only way to protect the blonde is to trust her completely before doing so. There are no other options. The heroine was glad that at least someone was found who was completely ready to protect Fleta, but now she understood more. All this time, the brunette was worried not only about his niece. He felt awkward. She is not such a fragile lady. If the young man is so worried, he is obliged to fulfill one request that she has. In the garden, 3 people are sitting at a table and the interlocutor smiles, asking if the purpose of their dinner together was. It was enough to think up something strange, the lady called to tell about what was happening in detail. When Fleta is next to the Duke, she feels much calmer, and in that case they will be able to have a normal conversation. Liam helps the beauty serve food. They have already met him. He volunteered to accompany the princess. Because of the recent incident, the brother was very upset, so the Duke became his personal knight and he agreed to this. In fact, personal accompaniment is a kind of initiative of the young man who decided that there would be no problem with this. The prince said that the maiden's safety was in danger, and this was how everything was explained to people far from her. They are not that far from the palace, so Fleta asks to go play with Flora since she was free earlier. You can go and play, but you are not allowed to go too far. The little girl is happy that she is still allowed to leave. His Majesty and the Empress finally decided to take a walk after such a long time. If she likes it, then so does he. The blonde orders the servants to leave because she is going to talk about something important in private. It turns out that Duke Benyu was made his daughter's personal guard for safety's sake, but making the swordmaster just a bodyguard was a bit much. The girl can protect herself. It would be better to assign her to Vivian. She deserves it much more. The woman cares too much about Cézanne, and the other girl is acting like that, and it's time to stop. The little girl likes Liam, so she asked to make him her personal bodyguard. There was no choice left. The queen asks not to worry. The blonde has long wanted a new knight. They simply gave her what she asked for. Vivian was rather offended that the youngest was taken care of faster than her, but that was nothing to be sad about. A rabbit who had been rustling in the bushes before runs forward and looks around cutely. The couple does not understand that the pet has forgotten itself in the garden, but then a girl comes forward calling for Flora, who simply ran away. The woman's eyes reflect horror. Because her hair and eyes are very similar, she is ready to scream. Cézanne hurries behind calling Fleta. She asked her not to go too far, but again she accidentally disobeyed. Mother screams even louder. All those rumors are true because her daughter is messing around with this girl who doesn't deserve attention. The girl asks the little girl to go to the Duke. She and her mother will talk later, but she wants to get an answer faster. The woman sincerely believed her daughter, but she hid the child from her eyes while continuing to skillfully lie over and over again. While there is a commotion around, the blonde tries to calm down and collect her thoughts. Their meeting was inevitable. It's better to believe that she is a kind person and will believe that it is necessary to kick out the brat long before this. If anyone is to blame, it is Arantos before her. The girl says so because she knows nothing, but she herself opens a terrible door. Everyone hates their sister because of her eyes and hair, but it doesn't mean anything. Everyone thinks she's cursed just to get rid of them. Rumors like this don't give you the right to hate an innocent child. She deserves better. All this time, the Emperor saw in her behavior only a manifestation of concern, but now he can no longer tolerate it. He orders her to return to the palace and not to see Fleta. The girl sincerely hoped that she would explain and they would understand everything, but now it was clear that the time had come to give up. Virgo never doubted that she was loved because she was cared for, but now she does not know if it was love for the forces of light. The question is on the tip of my tongue. If she had been born with dark powers, she would probably have been unloved too. Cézanne has no right to speak to her parents like that. She is the bearer of the righteous power of light and is not like her. The princess promises that she will prove that the baby is just as ordinary, and then leaves. She met with the Duke and the prince. They are not in the garden, and everyone heard, even if unintentionally. Sraken went to look for the two of them because he began to worry. The meeting was a bad time. The heroine asks for forgiveness for appearing in such a terrible state. The conversation was important, so there was no need to apologize, and it was time to return to the palace and finish talking there. She agrees, but doesn't know where Fleta is. They met near a clearing, but then she headed into the garden. The child is now all alone in a forest that she has never seen before, and in which there are many dangers. Flora is sitting on her hands. When the girl comes forward to a beautiful stream, she does not understand where she is. Falling to the ground, the heroine cries, "Everything happened because of her. She was asked not to leave, but she disobeyed. Maybe if the lady looked different, she would be loved more." A familiar voice is heard. Vivian appears before her. Half an hour before, a maid reported that the royal family would be walking in the garden. The father was still angry about what happened at the banquet. Prince Benyu also volunteered to become a knight in defense of Cézanne. He himself proposed it. The emperor did not say anything against it, because the best swordmaster himself deigned to become the one who would protect the girl. It is impossible for the prince to join Cézanne. The duke is already chasing her like a tail, but anything else would be impudence. Everyone around is the same. They don't even think about Vivian and only run around Aratus Jr. praising her. The blonde won't be able to wait. She won't be in silence and hoping for the best. The girl sees a clearing. As a child, she and her family often went to the lake, but her father behaved a little differently then. The man said that they couldn't run because they had to be more elegant. All of them were to represent the empire in the future, and for this manners were an essential criterion. The virgin turns away trying to shake off the obsession. The surge of feelings came too late. The woman calls her familiar, who immediately appears in the light. She's angry that he doesn't glow golden and can't fly or do anything good. In the distance, a voice is heard, and a figure is seen complaining about how she was born. Greeting the first princess, the girl is almost shaking. She does not answer the question about what she is doing here. Today the emperor is supposed to come to the garden, and he will not leave the heroine just like that without testing her. The blonde wonders what Fleta did that made Cézanne start running after her. She's probably some kind of pet. Apparently the baby was finally thrown out because she became useless. It seemed like the girl was good, but she was also a pretender. Sister never threw away her blood, so speaking ill of her is forbidden. Starting to get angry at what was said, the lady waves her fan, and the brunette, unable to hold back, stumbled and flew into the water. The woman didn't want it to end this way, but she doesn't understand why she should suddenly feel ashamed. There are footsteps behind, and my sister comes forward and asks what is going on. She is trying to understand. Noticing Fleta's hair in the water, the blonde asks with horror on her face what Vivian has done. The princess fears that she tried to kill the baby, but in response she receives laughter because this is not true. They saw a girl standing next to the stream and thought that she was to blame, although the little girl fell on her own. The laughter subsides, and Erantos asks just in case if the weirdo is being mistaken for a family member. The girl is pretending again she is good at it and has always made everyone look bad and herself look pretty. Vivian has been considered stupid since childhood, and this time it seems history is repeating itself. If that's the case, the heroine would be better off taking her charge and getting the hell out of the empire. Father will not give permission to keep the beauty at court and ensure her safety. She just pretends to fight for everything good until the very end, but it has nothing to do with it. If this is true and the hypocritical situation is such, Cézanne must prove that she has no right to turn her back on the imperial family. The girl will never be able to go into the shadows, that's why she is a hypocrite. It is better to accept the truth as it is. Vivian's words are still inside her. The girl saved Fleta and thought she was achieving something, but it's not enough to change the family's mind. Someone threw pebbles at the window, and Duke Darien appeared under the balcony and went to talk. If the hero came to visit Fleta, then she is sleeping and will not wake up until the morning. He has some other reason. The hero thought that the girl knew that his concern applied to all people and not just to his niece. The girl thought that she could do anything for her sister and that it would not be a problem. Recalling the words, the blonde admits that she was hypocritical, and the desire to gain the approval of her family was the fruit of selfishness. She needs to think of something else. The Duke promised to help. At any moment she can use it. If this is so he can be relied upon, it would be better to leave Erantos with Fleta. In order to be together, they will even have to get engaged. Unfortunately, they have no other choice. The man begins to stutter almost immediately. The fact is that the request is not offensive to him, but he does not know what to say. As you know, the likelihood that a child will leave the country alone is small because her father will follow her again. If they get engaged, the princess herself will have a reason to leave the empire with an official application. There is no need to worry too much. To put it simply, they are entering into a fictitious marriage. Vivian's words hurt my soul, but there is no need to decide to do this. Just because of this, there is no need to take everything to heart. From the very moment the lady saw her father's attitude towards Fleta, she understood that the whole family would behave this way. Everything fell into place. Perhaps the child will be treated badly in Erantos, but he cannot deprive the girl of her happiness and ruin her life. Family, home power, and glory are in the empire, and giving up everything in this life, the brunette will not be an assistant. The hero also hopes that the beauty will be happy, but in this regard he cannot speak on his own behalf. Sraken is called the land of horrors. The climate as well as customs are usually very different. It's full of creatures that threaten people and can't be controlled. The man seems to think that it is better to refuse even if this puts his niece in danger. Maybe to some extent the beauty is truly fragile, but such words hurt a little because they don't seem true. The princess asked to follow her, and now they were in the knight's training area where they had been before. Virgo is glad that people are worried about her, but thinking that she is weak is definitely not worth it. It is insulting. Firstly, the heroine will prove that she will never flinch before some pathetic monsters. Of course, she hopes that she will be the best. The young man plans to win, and if he does ask him to pretend that there was no offer, they agreed to a deal. If the girl wins, they will talk about the wedding again. It turned out that the blonde was very good with a sword and had no shortage of confidence. So the rumors about the young man were also true. He was the one who laid everyone down on the battlefield without question. He won't give up just like that because the deal is a bit interesting. He will have to go to the very end to achieve what is right. The techniques that the main character uses will not be enough to fight monsters because reality and practice are very different. The father loves hunting, but the lady never imagined that she would ever need it, thanks to which she became a pro in her field. It's time to use the light. It will help defeat the enemy. He did not expect such a blow. It seems that the beauty has won because the man ended up on the ground. His end had come. This is all unfair because the lady used force, but she never said that this wouldn't happen. In the end, it seems the girl was not going to dodge. Just like the young man, it was dangerous. The lady could get hurt. The girl asks for forgiveness. She thought that she could only be on the same level with him in this way. It may sound funny, but the blonde seemed to know that Sraken would never hurt her. The situation could have been a little confusing since the lady first asked and then arranged a duel. It was possible to overcome the impossible only thanks to faith in the man. He helped to do everything as it should be. This is his merit. The girl realized that the Duke's concern was quite sincere. She was manipulating, asking if she was good enough for marriage. Light laughter echoes throughout, but Darien falls silent. He has lost this battle once and for all. There is a young man standing behind who continues to think about something important throughout the entire journey. He cannot understand what is happening and how. The hero asks one last time whether the girl agrees to leave everything in the background just to get what she wants. The girl is stronger than she seems, but perhaps the man just thinks she is not good enough. It is unclear. The brunette wants confidence in something else. It has nothing to do with this. But the lady needs to be confident in whether she wants to get married. If they get engaged, there will be a lot of gossip, and it won't end in joy and all that. The Virgo is glad that the man is worried, but assures that she is just ready for this. She knows what she is getting into. The heroine has a clear plan, but they will talk about this when everything is over. There is no need to worry now. The girl is about to leave, but at the last moment asks for forgiveness. She is sorry that the guy was drawn into the affairs of another country and deprived of his youth. They will only try to save Fleta, and then they can go their separate ways when the time comes to do so. It would be wrong to worry so much. The man is also worried about Cézanne, not only about his niece. To put it simply, the hero is not at all against the future wedding. The girl is angry. She does not know how to understand this at all. The hero laughs. They are destined to become husband and wife, but she seems afraid even of goodnight kisses. The blonde is trying to send the young man home. When she hears the maid's voice, she needs to leave in time to avoid being reprimanded. As my friend said, I'll be able to return tomorrow. My things can wait anyway. Aisha looked after Fleta all night, and now she is much better. The temperature has gone down. The princess is distracted from talking with her sister. As it turns out, Sraken himself is already waiting. It cannot be postponed any further. The man is worried about the child. That's why he came. He also won't forget to check something. Also an important element. Fleta tried to say that she didn't have any pain and to go play, but it didn't work. Liam would look after her. The Archduke arrived earlier than promised. Apparently, he was really looking forward to the meeting, so he hurried to finish everything. The discussion will drag on a bit, but in the meantime, they can drink some tea and be happy that everything is going according to plan. The fact that they are breaking away will be a fictitious marriage. That is the most important thing. Even though the couple chose such an extreme measure for Fleta's sake, she still has no desire to belong to someone 100%. This could be true even for the hero, so he shouldn't think about anything. They will sign the contract. The sheet contains important points that will be relevant for both of them for several years. Of course, there are too many prohibitions that have nothing to do with true married life. The parties are not required to be a couple. The maiden wrote this condition taking into account yesterday's sudden phrase about kissing. It seems that the girl is not particularly fond of the topic of goodnight kisses, and it goes without saying that she is not going to stick to it. Overall, the brunette is happy with everything. In 1 year, Fleta will calmly settle in Sraken and will be calm. The biggest problem now is the agreement of 2 large states. It is still unclear whether the emperor will approve of their engagement. He has every right to do nothing. The girl has a plan. Even for this, she is ready to do something terrible, even after a good attitude towards her person. You need to choose a wedding date, even if everything will be done unofficially. It would be great to keep it as simple as possible without any celebrations or festivities that would get in the way. They have a special occasion. Such a romantic event is more of a luxury. Before this, the girl wants to go to the island to show Fleta the ocean time will also be allocated. The Duke will go with them. It will also take time, but he will be a good companion as a groom. The contract will be signed very soon. If the man doesn't like something, it's better to tell him about it in advance. The young man wants to know what to do if, during the period of action, one party falls in love with the other. The girl laughs slightly. She doesn't understand what she can say to this. Of course, the heroine swears that she never even thought in such terms about the young man sitting in front of her. Most likely, the brunette also sees the lady as something like a younger sister who does not interest him. I want to cry, because for some reason, Cézanne decided that her future husband was disgusted by the idea of marrying her. For her, the most important factor is Fleta. If she worries and cares about someone else, it will not end well. The words are true. The young man will send a letter of engagement to the duchy. Perhaps representatives of Sraken will arrive soon. The journey there will take more than 2 weeks, but they cannot afford to wait that long. The sister has already arrived back and is asked about the conversation with the man. She does not give all the details. Nothing like that happened, so of course that's the end of it. The little girl says that it seems like the man likes the heroine. The brunette thought so because the young man cares a lot about his loved ones, which makes him different from everyone else. Sraken reminds me of the main character from the books she has already read. He only looks warmly at Cézanne. Fleta doesn't understand, but the man often comes for her sake and not for her sister who doesn't attract him. Of course, a good relationship is nice, but the little girl wants to be next to the princess all the time. Even if there is more time with Darien, the two will never part ways. They are the most important thing for each other. The words only mean that the heroine loves the child much more than her future husband. Most likely, the girl loves Killian as much as Liam and brother with the sister on the top step. From the very morning there was a commotion in Sraken. Everyone was dragging chests and gifts to the wedding. Turdor does not understand why someone who constantly refused everything suddenly changed his mind. It seems that fate itself brought the couple together. There is no way to resist. The girl grabs the orange. Serbian Kaiola hears herself being yelled at for trying different wedding gifts. The Duke is still recovering from his killer nickname and needs some good times in his life. News about his marriage is much better than news about another campaign or war. We should rejoice and provide support. The situation is not so simple since we are talking about the second princess of Arantos, although the other ministers are ready to dance. Mrs. Shaman must consider whether the father will be happy sending his daughter somewhere to another country. To make matters worse, Cézanne is the pretender to the throne of the empire, and now she is about to leave. The gentleman is in some sense like a thief because there haven't even been any official negotiations yet. If a couple is still in love and both want to be together, their future does not need to be present. The minister is frightened by Karl. The last time they saw each other, he seemed like an overly cold person. The man seems to do everything only according to his desires. He doesn't care at all about other people. Before the gentleman makes even more mistakes, we need to urgently send him a new person. In the morning, the falcon arrived. Creon was surprised because the bird looked like the one that is usually released from Sraken. Finally, news arrived from the duchy, of course, for the man. He will be returning soon. A letter has already been sent to Minister Tredoa, but a response is still awaited regarding the wedding and the sale. The adjutant was shocked after hearing this, but so was Mel. She didn't believe that the lady hadn't reported it. The palace will be filled with rumors if you speak too loudly, so it is worth thinking about how to proceed. The girl asks for forgiveness, but neither her brother nor the servants should know. The wedding must take place as quickly as possible. The maid is always nearby, so hiding the truth from her will be more difficult than from the others, and she will help prepare. The ceremony is tomorrow, and it will be as unnoticeable as possible. The groom will be the duke. The woman has no right to judge the choice because she is only a maid of honor. It is indeed quiet inside the room. The lady used to stay there, but now there is no point in thinking about it. Finally, the hero of the occasion appeared wearing a beautiful, sparkling snow-white dress. They go inside the estate where the couple will take turns swearing to uphold the terms of the contract, and each will recite the prepared prayers. The Duke himself wants to start first. He knows that he will set an example, and thus it will be much easier for them. Their future will definitely be full of joy and blessings. No one will stand in their way, that's for sure. The deal worked because the piece of paper lit up and the man asked for Her Majesty's hand. On the beauty's finger is a ring with a blue diamond, a family heirloom of the Darien family that is passed down from generation to generation. The thing is too expensive and valuable for the princess to accept it, considering that she did not count on this. The ring is proof that Cézanne is Fleta's partner and protector. Despite everything, the man swears that as long as the treaty is in effect, she will remain part of the Duchy of Sraken. Even if it's just a moment, the lady is also glad that her partner is the hero himself, because for her, this is the most important thing. The lady's gift is not that expensive or deep in meaning, but the brooch still suits Darien's style very well. The girl would also like to discuss the issue of addressing her. Calling her princess would be uncomfortable given their marriage. The vows are over. It's time to head back so that no one suspects anything. The man steps forward. The most important thing is left for the very end, and this will have to be done so that both of them will feel good. Regardless of the country, a wedding kiss is the best way to seal your wedding vows. If they don't do anything, Cryon might start to suspect something, and that won't be a good start. It was supposed to happen only once, but then Fleta burst into the door and even fell. The baby is crying. She doesn't understand why she wasn't invited to the wedding, even though Mel told her what would happen. I want to scream because it turned out that they deliberately did not invite her, although they could have taken her with them. The princess is trying with all her might to justify herself. She did not want everything to turn out this way. Everyone gathered was incredibly happy that the child had come to meet them. They would have been sad if she had not shown up. So in the end, everyone stayed the same and everyone remained happy. Mel told her how to get to this place because Fleta had never been here before. The woman promised in return that she would not tell anyone anything, just 2 simple conditions and everyone is happy. The brunette had no idea that 2 people close to her were finally getting married. She thought they were just friends. The lady once said that she loved her sister the most, but now she decided to change her mind. She will indeed remain the most important, but this does not change the fact that the heroine had every right to hold a secret wedding. She had a plan that had to be carried out in order to avoid problems. There is no one but the Duke, and they are not there. This proves the importance of the event, even if it was all somewhat unrealistic. They and the Duke are dressed very beautifully, as if they really planned it. On such a significant day, the girl always wanted to congratulate her sister, first making her happy. The lady was a little touched by the words spoken and tried to hold back her tears. Darien promises that he will make Cézanne happy. They decide to agree on something so that later there will be no unnecessary questions that arise out of nowhere. Both Fleta and Orontos will be happy, and most importantly, they will always be together. This scenario seems to be the most suitable. Even though everything went a little off-plan due to the unexpected visit, the girl is glad that the contract signing ceremony ended well and they did not have to suffer.